of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Andrew. Welcome aboard, and congratulations to Billy's daughter. That's awesome. 40 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 70s today, 710, 5-day work coming up. Our top story, a Medina alert has been issued for a white Kia Sedona after the driver was involved in a hit and run that left a bicyclist with serious injuries last night in the Central Park neighborhood. It happened near 7700 East 36th Avenue. Authorities searching for a hit and run driver who struck and killed a pedestrian in Denver Tuesday night. It happened in the Berkeley neighborhood near West 61st and Federal, and authorities say the man's body was found lying in the road just after 11 o'clock. Investigators say he was hit by a car that was driving northbound on Federal, but no vehicle description has been released. Anyone with information on the hit and run or vehicle should contact Metro Denver Crime Stoppers. A suspect is in custody after another is still at large after a shoplifting and vehicle ramming incident in Wheat Ridge Wednesday. The suspects allegedly got into a vehicle, rammed into the officer's patrol car and two other cars, and then drove away. A woman was arrested near the scene, while police haven't yet located a man who ran from the officers in the King Soopers parking lot. One bystander was injured in the collision. Hamas supporters are still camping on the University of Denver campus, voicing their concerns and singing, doing all that stuff, and meeting with officials of the university for 3 hours on Wednesday. President Biden will host a state dinner at the White House Thursday night for the president of Kenya and former president.
Is the state dinner at 3 in the afternoon?
The pudding is ready.
Blues plate special state dinner with Joe Biden, the president of Kenya.
I think you may be spot on there. Maybe 4:30 at the latest. Former President Trump holding a campaign rally at a park in the South Bronx today. That should be interesting. This after most everyone knows now that FBI agents who raided Trump's home 2 years ago were instructed to prepare to use deadly force while executing the warrant. And FBI Director James Comey also is out on tour now. He has to be one of the slimiest creatures ever. He's on tour lying about Trump and warning people about exactly what Democrats, i.e. communists, are doing right now in courtrooms around the country.
He is a threat to the rule of law in America. To me, that's what this election is about. Not about policy differences. It's about what kind of country are we going to be. If he has the ability, smarter than he was last time, to use the power of the Department of Justice and the FBI to target his enemies, especially, the rule of law in America will change in a way we haven't seen in our life.
That is incredible.
I mean, it's like literally the pot calling the kettle black.
Yes.
And
mirror.
And I saw Mike Davis, who was an attorney with Chuck Grassley for years and very popular guy on Twitter now. He's telling Comey to get a lawyer, because they are going after these guys after what they did to Trump.
I'm telling you. Yeah. You know, as he's talking there, and I'll play another soundbite later in the next hour or in 2 hours, possibly. I'll try to use as much as possible. But, you know, as he's talking, you know, most people are listening to this and going, yeah, so what? You deserve everything that you receive.
Yep.
I mean, it is gross and it's frightening. It's dangerous, and hopefully something can happen. But that guy, man, he's right up there with your buddy Mitt Romney.
You're never gonna let me live that down, are you?
No, I'm not,
dude. I got introduced. I'm probably the only guy in America who worked for Mitt Romney and spoke at a Bikers for Trump rally. And And they introduced
That's
me
funny.
at the Bikers for Trump rally as formerly working with Mitt Romney.
No.
And I turned to the guy and I'm like, I'm going to get shanked. I ain't getting out of here, man.
That is awesome. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Hey, the news brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com.
And the right man for the job's coming up. The Rockies' steadiest hitter all year long, Ryan McMahon.
Hit well to right field. Going back is Nevin to the track, and it's gone. Towering shot hit by Ryan McMahon to right field.
All right, that was Drew first and then Jerry Schemmel. And the Rockies end a 4-game losing streak, 4-3-12 getaway day this afternoon. 36 in Arvada, 37 in Parker, 40 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Billy's with his daughter, graduation, and Andrew is in. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for a warm day today, up near 80 under sunny to partly sunny skies, getting a bit breezy, though, by afternoon. You'll notice the winds picking up later today as a front approaches. Behind the front, cooler tonight, lows down to near 40. Not as warm Friday, a high near 70. Maybe an isolated shower late. Saturday, low to mid-70s, a chance Saturday for showers and thunderstorms. Near 70 Sunday, a chance of showers and thunderstorms, drier and warmer Monday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill out with his daughter's college graduation. Found this audio the other day that perfectly sums up what's probably happening on some of those college campuses right now.
Welcome to Gaza graduation. Let's see how much students actually know what they stand for. If you get them right, you win $100. First question, have you guys chanted from the river to the sea?
Yes.
Okay, which river, which sea?
The Sea of...
So you don't know that? No. And the answer was the Mediterranean and the Jordan. What does Hamas say their number one goal is according to their charter?
They just want to free Palestine.
To murder all Jews around the world. How many years did Israel occupy Gaza?
Late 1800s, the entire time.
Since 48.
It was actually under Egyptian control for the first 20 or so years, and then Israel actually left Gaza in 2006.
I'm shocked. Wait, they left?
What is the definition of Zionism?
Doesn't that mean you hate Palestinians, right?
Jewish people who think that Judaism is the highest race.
Zionism actually just means that you think Jews are entitled to having their own homeland to protect themselves from another Holocaust. You don't even have to be Jewish. That makes you a Zionist.
Okay.
What does Intifada revolution mean?
I don't know what that means.
But you've chanted it?
Yeah.
It's like a global call to murder Jews.
Wow.
Did you know you said that?
No,
Would you say it again?
probably not.
How much have our foreign adversaries donated to American universities in the last decade?
No idea.
I couldn't give you a number on that.
The answer was over $6 billion. How many Gazan refugees have the Arab neighboring countries let in the last few months?
35,000.
The answer was 0.
Look, you asked an education major about
Students don't seem to know what they stand for. So wouldn't it be great if these expensive colleges actually taught them something?
That was at NYU. They went and interviewed students out there. Brilliant. $1,000 to get a degree from Columbia University, and they can't even tell you what From the River to the Sea is all about. Well, joining us in studios, Andrew McGuire, a good friend, brand strategist. Here's some of the brands he works with, to give you a sense. Frontier, Einstein's, Bissell, P&G, Dish, Blue Moon, Otterbox, Dollar General, Discovery Channel, NBC Sports, Duracell, Starbucks, Lexus, and Naked Juice. And Rich Carlton, I think, is in there too.
Oh, yeah. I've had the pleasure of working on all kinds of great brands through the years.
Great to have with you. Creative mind, which, that kind of skipped my ability. I didn't get those gifts. So it's fun to have Andrew joining us. Wanted to talk, we'll get into the news here in just a second, but I'll give you a sense of what we've got coming up on the show today. 8 o'clock, Rabbi Hillel Goldberg is going to be joining us. He's the editor of the Intermountain Jewish News, talking about some European countries are starting to recognize Palestine as its own separate independent state. What is that going to mean for this war? And then in the 9 o'clock hour, Gabe Evans, he's running for Congressional District 8. That's Yadira Caraveo's seat. He's a candidate up there. He'll be joining us. So great show coming up, and then we'll cover all the news and all that other stuff. Well, we start here on the news today. Bob Menendez made some news for all the wrong ways. Oh, as you know, if you're tracking any of the case he's going through right now, Bob Menendez on trial for fraud. The guy literally, he's the U.S. Senator from New Jersey, Democrat. And I looked everywhere for this audio. I couldn't find it. But years ago when he was first running, Ted Kennedy was doing a rally for him. And Ted didn't know how to pronounce his name. So he goes, Bob Menendez. And it just sounds, it sounds like a little motorcycle.
Revving it up, yeah.
Bob Menendez. So Bob Menendez, Democrat senator from New Jersey, and he's under indictment. He's now in trial. He and his wife taking and accepting gold bars from Egypt in turn for basically giving Egypt special deals. Here's part of, Andrew, why I'm almost like, why is he being charged on this? Because that's how every politician is. They're all accepting money for special deals, right? I mean, campaign contributions. I mean, every Democrat at the state capitol in downtown Denver is bought and paid for by Planned Parenthood, ACLU, all the lib groups, Pat Stryker. I mean, they're stroking checks and they're delivering what they want. But Bob Menendez gets popped because he's, got gold bars. So that was part of it. But
I mean, Bob's the gold standard, right? I mean, gold bar Bob, right? I mean,
yep. This was a headline you never want to have. Daily Mail. Grimacing gold bar Bob Menendez enters New Jersey with embarrassing medical treatment during ongoing bribery trial. Senator Bob Menendez has spent an awful lot of time sitting down as he attends court for his ongoing bribery trial, so much so it might have prompted an uncomfortable and embarrassing medical condition. Exclusive images from the Daily Mail show that embattled New Jersey Democrat exiting his vehicle at home Wednesday holding hemorrhoid cream.
Ouch.
The picture shows Menendez holding a box of Recticare.
Oh,
as a brand strategist, is that not the most perfect name?
That is. I don't know. I'm sure if that's the leading brand or not. I guess I wouldn't know yet. But
it sells itself, man. It's just the name. It's Recticare.
It really does. Maybe that could be his endorsement. You get a contract after.
Christy Nome was selling teeth whitening up in New Jersey or in South Dakota. Recticare Bob. A cream meant to help users deal with discomfort caused by swollen anus and rectal veins. It looked like he was in pain too, as the images show the lawmaker grimacing, possibly due to the discomfort of the condition. Menendez also had his luggage in tow when arriving home, though it was unknown why he had baggage, as he lives just miles from Manhattan, where the ongoing trial is playing out. Bro, if you're just brand strategize this for a second. You're a U.S. senator under indictment with with paparazzi following you everywhere and you need your hemorrhoid cream?
Well,
can you just put it in a bag? Can we give the senator some advice here not to be carrying that around outside for everyone to take a picture? Oh my gosh.
I mean, actually it might be genius, right? I mean, it's kind of a, wag the dog moment, but like, he gets to really turn the attention because we're talking about the hemorrhoids, right? Versus, the scandal, right? But
so they have a picture. He's getting out of the car and he's got this grimace on his face like he's in a lot of pain. And in his hand, Recticare. Like that's just amazing to me that it's so perfectly taken. U.S. Senator. That's just as a comms director, as someone who worked with candidates, I don't know how you come back from that one. I think you just let it go and you're just kind of like, well, good luck with that.
Oh, no, it could be like a great stump speech like Bill Clinton. I feel your pain. Now he could literally say he feels the pain of the voters that he represents, the pain in the butt that he's been to,
to the Republicans. I'm a pain in the butt to the Republicans.
But also makes you wonder, like, where those gold bars being stored,
So I was looking at pictures of this. He had gold bars hidden in his house and then $480,000 worth of cash rolled up and stuck in shoes and then hid in between documents like packages and stuff and books. This is so shady. But here's the thing. Here's his defense. Have you heard what his defense is?
No, I haven't.
His defense? It was my wife.
Oh.
Way to throw your wife under the bus.
She's a hoarder.
When you're about to get indicted. I didn't know she was accepting all this money. I mean, that has literally become their legal strategy to protect Bob Menendez, and he won't resign. A lot of people have called for him to resign. He won't resign. But the whole strategy that his defense is going is he was not aware of this. He was not aware of the money rolled up in shoes, $480,000 in cash.
Wow.
In your house, rolled up into shoes, gold bars hidden throughout. I mean, it's obviously corrupt. It's obviously bought for. It's all that stuff. But what I struggle with is I'm like, how is this any different than the state lawmaker that accepts a Planned Parenthood check? And I asked Hugh McKean one time. Hugh, God rest his soul, was the House minority leader, Republican. And I just said, Hugh, who do you negotiate amendments with when you're down at the state capitol? Do you call the Democrats? Because these bills weren't written by Democrats. They're written by Planned Parenthood. They're written by the ACLU.
Mm-hmm.
They don't write these. So who do you call to negotiate? He's like, I don't call it Democrats. I call Planned Parenthood trying to negotiate amendments. So help me understand, and I don't know, listeners, help me understand what Bob Menendez did was any different. Accepting gold bars, is it because it's personal? Is that the only difference? So you can accept campaign contributions from these organizations. You can have them write the bills. You can have them direct the efforts down at the state capitol. So long as it's not actually personal money, is that all the difference is here? I don't know. Give me a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Got a few text messages here. Hey, isn't playing this graduation audio the same thing you criticized Samantha Bee for doing at your event? I've talked to a lot of students that do understand what's going on and still have that view. Those are edited to make them sound dumb. Well, I mean, these were students out protesting this issue. I think it's a little different than Samantha Bee coming into the Western Conservative Summit and kind of cornering people that weren't necessarily, they were there to attend an event and watch and enjoy. But these are people specifically protesting, and they were asked specifically about the event that they're chanting themselves. So I don't know. Is he taking the Justice Alito legal strategy? Blame your wife. Well, I think what Alito did is a little different. And in that case, it was his wife. She even said so. Alito's not being brought up on charges and saying, oh, it was her. So little different, Andrew, but I appreciate the text. 2820. Thank you for texting. Feel free to give us a call. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Hey, for the last few weeks, we've had Gabe Ribble in studio here with us. Gabe Ribble, absolutely wonderful woman. There's a few reasons why, if you got to sell a house right now, Gabe Ribble's the one to go with. So first of all, Gabe Ribble's incredibly kind, wonderful personality, very sweet person. If you've got to go through the stressful process of having to sell a house and all that comes with it, the inspections and the negotiations, you want somebody that's positive, that's going to help take that stress off your shoulders. Secondly, she shares our values, right? Pro-family, pro-America, pro-faith. And she gives back to orphans in the state of Colorado. Why? Because she was an orphan herself. And when she found her forever family and they raised her right and gave her that hope and that support and security, she wants to be able to help other orphans in the state of Colorado find their forever family. So she donates to help orphans in the state of Colorado. And third, she is a pro. Look, we all got friends and family members who are real estate agents, and they all want our business. I get it. But this is a business transaction, and you need to get the most you possibly can. She gets her clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gabe Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gabe Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gabe will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gabe Ribble and the Empower Home team. Give them a call today, 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Andrew Show today. Bill is out visiting his daughter, 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. Officials in Iowa say 4 people died and at least 35 were injured by a devastating tornado in the south of the state. Many homes and businesses in the town of Greenfield were also reduced to rubble by the twister. Search and rescue teams spent Wednesday scouring destroyed buildings looking for people potentially trapped inside. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds describes the damage as, quotes, horrific, and she's declared a disaster emergency for affected counties. Former President Donald Trump is holding an election rally in the Bronx tonight. Despite moving his residence to Florida, Trump has been forced to spend a significant amount of time in New York since the start of his hush money trial. Haley Bianco reports.
The event at Crotona Park in the Bronx is expected to reach capacity at 3,500 people for tonight's rally. It's a big deal because it's Trump's first rally in New York since 2016. The Bronx campaign stop comes days after a huge turnout in Wildwood, New Jersey, with an estimated crowd of 100,000 people. Trump has been spending more time in the New York City area over the past 2 months as he's been cooped up in a courtroom for his hush money trial in Manhattan.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel. At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy is with his daughter at her graduation, college graduation today. Very excited. Congratulations, Bill. We miss you. If you lean more on the Bill side of things, more that independent thinking, give us a call. You got to defend the more liberal independent side today. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Let's check in with Blake Olson. Blake, what you working on this morning, my friend?
Well, once again, authorities searching for another hit and run driver, a couple, one last night in Denver and one on Tuesday that killed a pedestrian. And James Comey, the greasiest, slimiest individual you may meet in DC or beyond, talking about Trump and how this country has to deny him from finding his way back into the Oval Office. That and much more coming up at the top of the hour.
Blake, I put up a Twitter poll on this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Do you trust the FBI?
How did that work out?
Yes or no? It's still live. I've got 5 hours left to vote on it.
Okay.
We are at 95.8% no.
Wow.
4.2% say yes. That's a brand
That's
identity
amazing.
problem.
No doubt. No doubt. Wish he had someone on the air that could.
I was just about to turn that direction. I mean, so joining us is Andrew McGuire, who serves as a brand strategist for just about everybody under the sun. I mean, Duracell, Starbucks, Lexus, NBC Sports, Ritz-Carlton, Haagen-Dazs, Chipotle. What the FBI has got a brand problem, brand identity problem right now. I mean, 96% on my little Twitter poll are like, no, we don't trust. Holy cow. Whoa, what are your words to the FBI there, Andrew?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think those 3% that voted in favor were probably feds themselves, but I don't think most people,
Chad feds, those guys are
right.
like,
I think most people didn't even vote in that poll because they were like, oh, this is a Fed poll. But yeah, no, I mean, like, they talk about low credibility. They're ready for a brand refresh, right? So yeah, maybe they're out shopping. I don't know. I mean, maybe they ran out of the Comey is my homie t-shirts, but I think they need more than a new spokesperson. They need to be a little bit more fair and balanced, as it were, on both sides.
Not kicking in the doors of Catholic dads would help. I mean, here you have a dad that's just trying to minister to people going into abortion clinics and gets his door kicked in at 4 a.m. with armed FBI agents. So that's a good first step.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's like get back to your who's your product, right? What is your main thing? And the FBI, I think they talk about like scope creep. They are trying to kicking down doors they shouldn't be kicking down anymore.
Yeah,
to me.
I mean, Charlie Kirk got into this show yesterday. Or where are the good FBI agents kind of standing up against the use of lawfare against political opponents? Yesterday came out that the FBI had given lethal. Had given the directive to use lethal force if necessary when raiding President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estates. And you're like, and their response was, well, this is just standard. This is standard operating. Anytime we raid anybody. And I'm like, well, it's not standard to raid the house of the former president of the United States. I'm sorry. It just isn't. A little professional courtesy here. We're going to work with your attorneys. We're going to, make sure that this isn't an embarrassment to the former president of the United States. This idea of we're going to show up with fully armed FBI agents, raid the former president's house, and they just treat that like you're raiding, someone selling fentanyl. Give me a break. I don't know. Right. Having a little professional courtesy might go a little ways, but here's a question. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Do you trust the FBI anymore? Or are there too many bad stories that have popped up over the years? What Hoover did to Martin Luther King, the recordings there, all that stuff. Is it giving you a sense that you don't really trust these agencies? And these are your primary...
The legislature has essentially substituted its decisions on how the money ought to be spent.
Is that for Blake?
For the decisions that.
I was like, I'm getting some audio here.
Oh God, it's the feds.
Yeah, they're interrupting.
They're on the door.
They're interrupting. The Republicans have a brand problem, and I would not come on the air to diss the FBI not kicking the Margo logo up. I wouldn't even say who texted that, but they're probably reading it anyways. Good morning, Jeff. I was reading this morning on Gateway Pundit that Merrick Garland approved the deadly force on the raid on Mar-a-Lago. Now he takes his marching orders from the Oval Office. That's kind of how they always do. The attorney generals, they're the top attorney, mostly for the president of the United States. I mean, they're supposed to represent the people, but they do the president's bidding. Wouldn't be surprising at all. But I don't think that was a good answer. I don't think that was the right answer from the FBI. Well, this is just how we do all raids. Right. Okay, well, this is the former president of the United States. This isn't all raids. I'm sorry. It's just a little different. So,
I mean, to me, it doesn't even matter if it's the president or not. I think it's U.S. citizen, right? Like they work for us,
Yes.
The presumption of innocence. And so I wouldn't want the lethal force as an automatic go-to if they were raiding pretty much, any U.S. citizen, right?
But the response I heard, and Charlie did a really good job on his show yesterday about this, and this is a fair critique, pushback from an FBI agent that was on Charlie's show, is like sometimes the people that bring the craziest lethal force are the people you don't expect. Like, so you have to treat every instance seriously. Because it could be, you're going to get on tax issues or something like that, and the guy goes nuts and grabs a gun or a knife, and all of a sudden your agents are under threat. So I get that, but I don't know, with the president and these guys going after Catholic dads and sitting in parking lots of Catholic churches and writing down license plates and all that stuff. Like, really? Yeah. You don't understand why you don't have a brand problem? Maybe check. If you want to vote in that poll, go ahead. I'd love to have it. It's on my X account, x.com/Jeff Hunt, x.com/Jeff Hunt. All right. Want to get into menthol cigarettes because this is going to affect Biden this year. Associated Press reporting Biden officials indefinitely postponed ban on menthol cigarettes amid election year pushback. President Joe Biden's administration is indefinitely delaying a long-awaited menthol cigarette ban, a decision that infuriated anti-smoking advocates, but could avoid a political backlash from black voters this November.
So the ban blame election year politics for the delay. The plan requires final approval from the White House, and political analysts say the Biden administration's concerned it could hurt turnout among black voters, who are by far the biggest consumers of menthol-flavored cigarettes. Durham health advocate Del Monte Jefferson says black leaders like the Reverend Al Sharpton are working with the tobacco industry.
They are doing this because money comes into their pockets from the industry. So they are simply a mouthpiece for the industry on this issue.
For the 10th year in a row, faith leaders will celebrate No Menthol Sunday this week.
Have you ever heard of No Menthol Sunday? I've never heard of churches taking that as an issue. How does it strike you that Al Sharpton is taking money from tobacco companies?
Not surprised.
Right. This has been, unfortunately, a not so secret problem in inner city urban communities, is that on every street corner is a liquor shop that sells cigarettes. These industries have targeted the black community with high addiction. And the fascinating point on this, by the way, Mayor Wellington Webb former mayor of Denver, originally came out in support of pot, and then started to see that Highlands Ranch is not putting pot shops up. Parker is not putting pot shops up. Arvada's not putting pot shops up. It is downtown Denver that's putting pot shops. And so pot is following the same pathway that tobacco and alcohol did, which is we're going to put one on every corner in inner city urban communities. Do you think Democrats really care about black lives?
I mean, I think they they do at the core as people, but as policies, good intentions, I think, get off the rails pretty quick.
But I mean, if you really cared about Black lives, and in this case, menthol cigarettes are predominantly consumed by the Black community, wouldn't you work to ban them instead of allowing Al Sharpton to run around paid for by tobacco companies? And then Joe Biden losing the Black vote right now by 9 points. He's lost 9 points of the Black vote. He's not losing it entirely, but he's lost 9 points recently, deciding, well, Black lives can take a backseat to getting elected this year.
Right. Well, I mean, Biden's turn on that is pretty impressive, man. I think it's, I think he's been a little bit inspired maybe from like Trump launching Trump shoes, the Trump Bible. Like he's doing these branded things to these different, niche audiences, right? So I think he's thinking, you know what? I'm not only going to not ban menthols. I mean, did you hear? Like he's announcing like Biden menthols coming out, right? Inspired by all of Biden's favorite ice cream flavors, chocolate chip, mint chocolate chip, So I mean, it's like the biggest political turn since Mr. Burns on The Simpsons being, eating the three-eyed fish, it's all about opportunity. And so it's not a matter of not caring for their constituents. I think it's the ends always justify the means. And so if your primary role is that the government is the rescuer, has to come in and save the victimized people from all the problems that the government has also created for them, then you're looking for opportunities to create that supply of the problems that you are presenting yourself to solve. So it's no surprise. Yeah, there's pot on every corner, menthol on every corner, because it's creating the job security of why you need big government to solve those problems. Right. And so honestly, would not be surprised if there were Biden menthols on his campaign website,
That would be good.
By the end of this show. I mean, it's beyond pandering.
The White House held dozens of meetings, according to the Associated Press, in recent months of groups opposing the ban, including civil rights organizers, law enforcement officials, and small business owners. Most of groups have financial ties to tobacco companies. Surprise, surprise. The announcement is another setback for the Food and Drug Administration officials who drafted the ban and predicted it would prevent hundreds of thousands of smoking-related deaths over 40 years. The agency has worked towards banning menthol across multiple administrations without ever finalizing a rule. The decision prioritized politics over lives, especially Black lives, says Yolanda Richardson of the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids in an email statement. It is especially disturbing to see the administration parrot the false claims of the tobacco industry and support from the civil rights community. Richardson's noted that the ban is supported by groups including the NAACP. By the way, they're against pot. That's amazing. Wow. The NAACP. Because they see that it's like everything we had to deal with again. It's just that profit by addiction coming right into the urban communities and continuing to screw them over. And the Congressional Black Caucus. Previous FDA efforts on menthols have been derailed by tobacco industry pushback or competing political priorities. With both Biden and former President Trump vying for the support of Black voters, the ban's potential impact has been scrutinized by Republicans and Democrats heading into the fall election. Anti-smoking advocates have been pushing the FDA to eliminate the flavor since the agency started authority to regulate certain political ingredients in 2009. Menthol is the only cigarette flavor that wasn't banned under the law, a carve-out negotiated by industry allies in Congress. More than 11% of U.S. adults smoke, with rates roughly even between white and Black people, but about 80% of Black smokers smoke menthol, which the FDA says masks the harshness of smoking, making it easier to start and harder to quit. I don't know. Do you think we should be banning stuff like this?
I don't know. I mean, I have a libertarian streak. So, I mean, my general thing is, I'm against bans and overstepping of the government of things like that. I really think the bigger issue is, empowering people to make the right decisions for themselves. That's maybe more in the abstract. So I'm not a big fan of the ban personally, but I'm also not a big fan of, when years ago, right after, marijuana was legalized here in Denver, I'm taking my, at the time, very young daughters to the zoo of all places. And, it's like the purple haze comes in as we're looking at the lions, and I was just like, whoa, what's going on here? And the kid's like, I smell a skunk. I'm like, that's not a skunk. Like people in front of you are lighting up. So like, I mean, obviously there's a balance between like the life you want to live and versus passing it by law. But I'm not a big fan of passing the laws. I'm a big fan of people kind of taking responsibility for their own
So
actions.
I agree with you that trying to ban things that people want to do freely is very hard, right? So I agree with you in that sense. What I don't like, and those of us that are free market guys get this, is when you empower the commercialization of products. Because what's the bottom line goal of a commercialized product? As many users as they can get.
Yep.
Right. So we don't just legalize things, we commercialize them. And then you incentivize organizations and powerful business interests to go get as many people on the substance as you want. On that point, by the way, marijuana is now surpassing alcohol in some contexts. Daily marijuana use outpaces daily drinking in the U.S., a new study says. Alcohol is still more widely used, but 2022 was for the first time frequent marijuana use overtook frequent drinking. Interesting. All right, we got some phone calls coming in. Let's start with Jim in Denver. Jim, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning. Now that Billy's gone for the day, let's just have one day where we can say positive things about President Trump, okay? And I'd like to start us off. I'd like to let everybody know that Manhattan Jesus is going to save America. He saved us from the pandemic and death with Operation Warp Speed. I believe he also saved Stormy Daniels when she caught AIDS in 2004 and brought her back so that she could stand against him in a government trial. He will save us from Joe Biden. So everybody, please vote Manhattan Jesus this November.
Jim, I appreciate the call. What do you think about?
Hey, have a good one.
Oh, thank you, Jim from Denver. Look, if you, we're going to need Bill's perspective here. So if you're on that more liberal side, you got to call in today, 303-696-1971. We sure miss him. We miss that fun, that quick wit that he has. So be sure to give us a call. Let's go to Henry in Denver. Henry, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Yes, good morning. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Yes, good. I just wanted to say that, I like Bill and we miss him, but you know what? We can't have, we got to be like the Democrats. We got to stick more together. This is more of a conservative radio, and we can't have Joe Biden back in office.
Yeah, I get it.
Like,
but Henry, here's what's really unique about this show, because you don't get it anywhere else, right? There's plenty of people out there that'll give you the monologue. They'll read scripted news from New York City, all that stuff. This is News Talk, and why this is the number one top talk radio show in Denver is because Democrats are listening and calling. Republicans are listening and calling. Independents are listening and calling. Libertarians are listening and calling. And sometimes even the communists are listening and calling. But this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. But Henry, you're all in for Trump this year, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course I am. And I get it. I understand. We have people from, all walks of life. But, we got to stick together. Like these Democrats, it doesn't matter. They're going to go for Joe Biden no matter what.
Henry, did you see that Nikki Haley said she's going to vote for Donald Trump yesterday? She has come around.
Yes, I did. I'm happy for that. I was wondering when she was going to do that. It took her a while, but she's there now, and that's good. That's good on us. That's good. And then what's that? Go ahead.
And all that's left is Liz Cheney. I think she's the only one left out there that's like, I'm not going to support Trump. But look, look, there are bigger issues here. You have the future of this nation at stake. And we've seen 4 years under both these guys. Now, Donald Trump's presidency wasn't perfect. I think he overreacted on COVID. I really do. I think he listened too much to those advisors and Anthony Fauci. I think he made mistakes there. He continued to spend us into oblivion. They've got to get hold of that. But this guy, we've seen 4 years of Joe Biden. We've seen 4 years of Donald Trump. I think Trump's a lot better.
Oh, of course. 100 times better. Yeah, we need him back in there no matter what. I just wanted to call in and I mean, don't get me wrong. I met Bill at the Black Eyed Peas. He's a good person.
Oh, he's great. He's great.
Yeah. He's a very good person. But we just need to stick together. And
I think we're going to bring Bill over. I don't know. I think Bill might be pulling that lever for Trump. I can't put words in his mouth, but he's an independent thinker and he's a good guy. I appreciate it, Henry. Thanks so much for the call. Guys, I want to talk to you about QC Kinetics here. Look, we're all getting older, and those joints, man, I was working out this morning with my boys, and my elbow, it's 42, and I'm starting to get some of that elbow pain. Look, back, joints, knees, elbows, whatever moves, you got to keep moving as you get older, because once you start sitting around a lot, that's when your health really starts to spiral down. So if you're dealing with pain, you're not alone. Pain affects millions, and it impacts the quality of life. There's hope. My friends at QC Kinetics Denver offer regenerative medical treatments. These are non-surgical, drug-free solutions. As we age, lower back pain becomes common, from muscle strains to herniated disc. Symptoms like muscle aches and shooting pain can worsen with movement. Why risk surgery when there's a safer option? With no downtime and a free consultation, QC Kinetics often provides same-day treatment. Visit my friends at QC Kinetics and revolutionize your approach to lower back pain. Call 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986, or visit painfreecolorado.com. That's painfreecolorado.com to schedule your free consultation today. Be sure to tell them Jeff Hunt sent you. Friends, you're tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill just out today. His daughter's graduating. Big, hearty congratulations to the Thorpe family as their daughter graduates from college. We sure miss him. Andrew McGuire sitting in today. We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill out today as his daughter's graduating, so he'll be back tomorrow. Coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, Rabbi Hillel Goldberg is going to join us from Intermountain Jewish News. European countries moving to recognize Palestine as its own independent state. What does that mean for this battle between Hamas and Israel? And then Gabe Evans is going to join us in the 9 o'clock hour. He's a candidate for Congressional District 8. He's looking to unseat Yadira Caraveo. So I want to dive into that. He's in a competitive Republican primary against Janak Joshi, who'll be joining us tomorrow, by the way. So we'll get Bill back in tomorrow. But when we come back, brand expert Andrew McGuire, who served Lexus, Starbucks, Ritz-Carlton, Haagen-Dazs, Chipotle, Frontier Airlines, Einstein Brothers, Bissell, P&G, Dish, Blue Moon, Otterbox, all those. I'm going to ask him about these presidential campaigns. What's the brand that Donald Trump needs to continue to build in order to win? What does Joe Biden need to do to scramble to try to get this back from Donald Trump? We'll get to all of that and more, and your calls. So call us and text us. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. Seven a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, sometimes crazy. Most of the time, it's crazy. Bill's out today. He's attending his daughter's graduation. We wish the entire Thorpe family congratulations and hope they're doing well. Bill will be back in with us tomorrow. Joining us is Andrew McGuire. He's a brand expert for organizations like P&G, Dish, Blue Moon, Otter, Dollar General, Discovery Channel, NBC Sports. He's a real pro. We're going to dive into the brands for these presidential campaigns coming up here in just a second. But this is the phone, or this is the station where your phone calls and texts matter most. So give us a call. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710KNUS app. Let's dive into the news, the Blake Olson news. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. 44 and sunny in Denver. Expecting highs in the upper 70s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, things about to get busier at DIA and on the highways today. Memorial Day weekend begins. The least expensive gas in the metro area is at my favorite Costco in Lone Tree at $2.87 a gallon, and also at Sam's Club in Lone Tree.
Is that the one? Is that the one by Park Meadows?
That is the one.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, man, I see that thing's filled up.
One. It's a good one. The one up here in Fort Collins is pretty good too. In Timnath, right off of Harmony, pretty good gas prices also. A Medina alert has been issued by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation for a white Kia Sedona after the driver was involved in a hit and run that left a cyclist with serious injuries last night in the Central Park neighborhood. Police also searching for a hit and run driver who struck and killed a pedestrian in Denver Tuesday night. It happened near 61st and Federal, and authorities say the man's body was found lying in the road just after 11 o'clock. He was hit by a car driving northbound on Federal, but no vehicle description has been released. Colorado taxpayers are on the verge of losing almost $3 billion in Tabor refunds. At least that's what the Common Sense Institute is claiming.
The legislature has essentially substituted its decisions on how the money ought to be spent for the decisions of the individual taxpayers.
That's Lang C.S. fellow at the Common Sense Institute. He says whether lawmakers are using Tabor money for tax credits or tax cuts, it's not what taxpayers had in mind when improving Tabor. A new report shows refunds could drop over the next 3 years if more than 100 bills passed this year. It gets signed into law. The nonprofit says the money would go toward targeting tax reductions for specific groups. Supporters say it will help those who need it the most. A suspect is in custody and another still at large after a shoplifting and vehicle ramming incident in Wheat Ridge on Wednesday. The suspects allegedly got into a vehicle, rammed into an officer's patrol car and then two other cars, and then drove away from a King Soopers. A woman was arrested near the scene while police still searching for the man who ran from police. President Biden will host a state dinner at the White House Thursday. That's tonight. Thursday says Thursday night. Tonight for the president of Kenya and former President Trump holding a campaign rally at a park in the South Bronx today. That will be interesting. This after news that FBI agents who raided Trump's home 2 years ago were instructed to prepare to use deadly force while executing the warrant. And then there's this guy, former FBI director James Comey from the slimy department. He's on tour lying about Trump and says he's going to do exactly what Democrats are doing now if he's elected.
He would express it in his first term as a wish. I want people to go after so-and-so. I want people to go after Andrew McGuire, the former deputy director of the FBI. In his second term, he would go a step further. I'm highly confident, and say, I want him criminally investigated. And he was close to the bottom of the barrel in his appointees last time. He'll be at the very bottom. And those are the people who carry out that order.
And judging by Jeff's poll, people don't trust the FBI. So if you're corrupt, you should pay the price. And here's Comey out there just promoting all that and trying to sway voters. A train caught fire in Douglas County on Wednesday. The fire happened as the train was near I-25 and Upper Lake Gulch Road. The train blocked railroad crossings near the interstate. The train was reportedly moving again last night.
And the right man for the job's coming up. The Rockies' steadiest hitter all year long, Ryan McMahon.
Hit well to right field. Going back is Nevin to the track, and it's gone. Towering shot hit by Ryan McMahon to right field.
Rockies end the 4-game losing streak, 4-3 in 12 on Wednesday. Getaway day this afternoon. It's 39 in Lakewood, 40 in Lone Tree, 44 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Thursday. Actually, Andrew is in for Bill. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for a warm day today, up near 80 under sunny to partly sunny skies, getting a bit breezy, though, by afternoon. You'll notice the winds picking up later today as a front approaches. Behind the front, cooler tonight, lows down to near 40. Not as warm Friday, a high near 70. Maybe an isolated shower late. Saturday, low to mid-70s, a chance Saturday for showers and thunderstorms. Near 70 Sunday, a chance of showers and thunderstorms, drier and warmer Monday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining me in studio is Andrew McGuire. He's a brand expert with organizations and companies like Otterbox, NBC Sports, Duracell, Starbucks, Lexus, Ritz-Carlton, Chipotle. Share with me a fascinating document on brand analysis of Trump versus Biden and where they fall along this. This is not a partisan report, but some sentiment leans towards Trump. He says what everybody wants to say, but won't. He's a fighter. He won't back down. He's patriotic, common sense. Where he loses, egotistical, a cancer on our country, some said, malignant narcissist, stuck at the age of 4. But here are some general brand assumptions where Trump does better. He's bolder. He's seen as bolder than Biden. Some perception among supporters, only 33% listed Joe Biden as bold. 94% said Trump was bold. Qualified, again, Trump 86% beating Biden over 82%. Intelligent, Trump beating Biden 82 over 71. And Biden came across as old and boring.
Yeah, the contrast with the report, it's old versus bold are the two big headlines, right?
Yeah.
With 87% seeing Biden as old and Trump 38% only see him as being old, which is interesting because they're not too different in age, but just really how they present themselves, right?
If someone was to hire you, let's start with the Trump campaign, Andrew McGuire. Trump campaign comes to you, says we need brand strategy development to get us across the finish line in November. What would you do? What would be your recommendations?
Well, I really see him just doubling down on the voice of the people, right? One of the things we do in brand exercises is find your brand archetype, your main character and personality. And long before he was president, Trump had defined that for himself. Like he was the brand, the big, his brand was well established as kind of that, ruler / every billionaire, but also the everyman personality. So really is a juxtaposition between the two. So really being that voice of the people, and that's where he wins. I mean, you look at this at survey after survey as people believe, I speak for him, which is crazy to think that a billionaire with gold toilets,
yes, connects
with the plumbers who are installing the toilets, right? So that is a brand leap and phenomenon that's just wild to branding, not even just politics.
Well, and the story behind that's wild. Rick Santorum told it at the Western Conservative Summit one year. Rick had written a book in 2015, I believe it was, titled The Blue Collar Conservative. And he gets a call from Donald Trump. And Donald says, I want you to come by the office. So he goes, Rick Santorum, former presidential candidate, former senator from Pennsylvania, goes up to Donald Trump's office, tells this whole story. And Donald Trump goes, I read your book. And Rick, straight shooter, coal mine, Pennsylvania guy goes, you didn't read my book. He goes, no, I did. I read Blue Collar Conservative. And it kind of pulled Donald Trump in that direction. But Trump has always been that kind of guy that likes to fight. So I've been doing a deep dive on Roy Cohn, who's the attorney that really kind of was Trump's very first attorney. Roy Cohn was the chief prosecutor for the McCarthy hearings, and the senator that went after everybody in communism and stuff like that. And these guys were Brooklyn brawlers. I mean, they don't really care if it's a private fight or a public fight. We want to be in a fight. So that was Donald Trump's kind of initial attorney and the guy who kind of guided him to be the guy who he is today. And I think that appeals to people who feel like the system's rigged.
It does. I mean, as the fighter, but also as a business person, right? A business person is different from the academic or political world because your ideas, either they live or they die in the marketplace. So take that with this brash kind of New York personality, which is also like the New York minute. Let's just get it done. Let's do it. Let's do it. It's all about the immediate results. And so you take that and you overlay that into the political world where, I mean, that's why long before he ran for president, like even like clips of the 80s, you see him like on Letterman, talking politics. And back then, of course, everybody loved him. It was like, oh, you should run for president someday. He's like, oh, I don't know. But even then he was always offering up these just real common sense kind of different solutions to things. And then along the way, really connecting with the everyman, the every person along the way. And that's why these surveys where it's like, he says what we want to say and we can't. And that's really the case. And I mean, I think his opportunity from even just a brand positioning standpoint is, we look at the stats of like, the belief that the economy is rigged in favor of the wealthy, right? I mean, from the Occupy Wall Street and the Bernie bros, like there's a lot of overlap with that populist movement. 78% of Democrats believe that, but now 52% of Republicans, are on board with that, and 67% of independents. And so I think really when you look at that, you're like, on one hand, you're like, well, I mean, Trump's wealthy. But you think of even that first debate with Hillary Clinton when he was like, and Chappelle calls us out. He's like, that's where he won it all. And he's like, the system's rigged. And they're like, well, how do you know that? How can you say that? He's like, because I use it, and so does Hillary over there, across the aisle. So the recognition of the system, and now he's been there for 4 years. He was really kind of the first independent president. And that's why Democrats and Republicans alike in the establishment hate him, because he's calling out those hypocrisies. So anyway, from a brand position, but that's where he wins, where he doesn't go after Biden. He doesn't go after, even just different Republicans on the stage, like taking them down one by one in the last two presidential primary cycles, because he has that clear contrast of identifying and speaking for the people. And that's really what brands do when they really connect. They connect with their audience because they solve the problem that they think they have. And to gaslight and say, you don't have that problem. The economy is actually really good, and he'd be like, it's lame, it's lousy. And they're like, oh yeah, it's lame and it's lousy. So I think it's really just speaking the language. People are like, oh, he's stuck at 4, he's dumb. Like, he talks and lives like a meme, because that's how people talk and live now. And so that's how you can connect.
Is that therefore a real problem for Democrats to pursue all this lawfare? So if you're speaking for the people and you're going, the system's rigged, and people are going, yeah, it is. Like we played a clip a few days ago of black voters from MSNBC. This wasn't a Fox News. This wasn't a Newsmax. This was MSNBC. And they're like, we're tired of the bullying. And we believe the system's rigged. We've watched black men be disproportionately arrested, that type of thing. We believe the system's rigged. And then they see Donald Trump getting drugged into Manhattan courts, and then courts in Florida and courts in DC and all this stuff. And they're not buying it. Are the Democrats actually playing into Donald Trump's strength at that point?
Well, absolutely. I mean, they're making Trump the victim, right? And like I mentioned earlier, like the Democrats' bread and butter is playing the victim card, being the rescuer, because when you're the rescuer coming in as the government, your policies, that's that built-in vote, that kind of built-in audience, right? You're the answer to your own problem kind of thing. So yeah, they're definitely highlighting that side of Trump, but I think Trump could fall into the trap of playing the victim, because that's not his brand. Yeah. So when he plays the victim, that could actually help the Democrats. So versus playing it against the system being rigged. But I think the main thing that people feel on it is, you hear Trump saying like, they can go after me, they'll go after you. I think instead of just saying that to Republicans, I think it's just that needs to be a broader statement to all Americans, because they could see it, whether you're whatever race or ethnicity you are, to realize that, wait a minute, the government, they don't work for us anymore. And so I think taking a page from the commercial playbook, it's like businesses, at least in the traditional sense, know that they're no customers, no business. The government has seemed to kind of lost that we as citizens and taxpayers are the customers.
Okay, so the one area where Trump is weakest, though, are women voters. I mean, they've just, especially college-educated women voters, they're like, we're out of here with this guy. How does Trump improve his brand to college-educated suburban women voters?
Well, I mean, I think it's really focusing on those issues that make sense to them, parental rights and things like that. I mean, he has an opportunity potentially with the VP running mate, but I mean, even if he had...
You think it has to be a woman?
I don't think it has to be a woman. It could help. I mean, I would love to see him pick someone like Tulsi Gabbard, because she'd be great. She's a veteran. She's strong. She's a little bit more centrist. I think she could really help win that. But ultimately, it's not really about the personalities. It's about the ideas. I think he could use some surrogates to bring a little bit of that softer side and champion the policies that women care about.
The ideas? I think it's almost entirely about the personality. I think they hate Donald Trump at like a visceral core level, and layer on top of that abortion, which is like their biggest issue. I don't know how Trump. I wonder if Trump's just like, we're not going to win that. But the problem is they're a big voting bloc, so you can't just totally dismiss college educated women entirely. But I feel like it's almost a personality issue more than anything else.
Well, it is personality. You're right in that sense. And he's become like the straw man for everything evil to that demographic. But I think with brands in general, like there's been a shift where they used to be very demographic driven. Like we need, males in this demographic, fit me on this demographic when you're selling a product. These days, more and more, it's about the psychographics, how people believe. So when I say it's about the ideas, it's not necessarily about Trump's ideas. It's about the audience's ideas. Because I mean, you see it in music, right? Like, so, I mean, I'm 47, some 47-year-olds, like they're Swifties, I mean, like music and stuff, but they're also maybe listening to gangster rap and country. People have very unique tastes across different ages. So it's really hard to pinpoint people to certain buckets, even with all the data that we have as marketers at our hands. So it's really about, picking and speaking to what people believe about themselves and how they see the world, connecting at that worldview level. And so it is a tall order for Trump in certain suburbia circles. But I think going after the ideas that really hit them, because yes, talking amongst other people at soccer games and stuff like that, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, he's horrible, he's awful. But then after the game, they're going to the grocery store to get some groceries, and they're like, well, I just spent $300 on 2 bags of groceries.
Yeah, right. The pocketbook.
I don't like the mean tweets, but at the same time, like I got to feed my kids. So.
If you were to coach Trump, what advice would you give him going into the upcoming debates? How should he present himself?
Well, I mean, Trump, I just love him because he was like, last week, he was like, Biden was high as a kite at the State of the Union. Like, first off, who would ever say that? That's awesome. Because again, that's file that under like what everybody's thinking, but no one can say. But at the same time, in that last debate with Biden, Trump was one that was high as a kite. It was like he'd like popped like 12 Adderalls. He was like super aggressive, jumping on every sentence because he was like, you know what, all I have to do is just, is just give him that knockout punch to Biden. But instead, it came off as like elderly abuse. So he can't do that in the next one. He's got to be respectful and a little bit more in control, a little bit more confident than maybe that insecure, like rabid, jump on him Trump, right? More like he was against debate 1 against Hillary, which is cool and collected. Because like you said earlier, like they both have their come the election year, they both have their 4-year resume of like of what they've done in office. So the things of like, he's going to end democracy. It's like, did that happen 4 years ago? No. He's going to do this and that. Nope. Didn't happen. So you can just be like, no, wrong, like go back to just real simple things, but really, again, paint a vision for the future. Because I mean, that's one of my things that I've had an opportunity to work with a couple conservative candidates. But one thing we or right of center candidates always do is they focus on policies and wonky things versus the why and the big picture. And we also fail to connect on of creating a vision and speaking to that emotion. Again, those ideas that the customers and voters actually have in exchange. So if he could speak to that instead of getting in the details of all the policies with Biden. I don't think Biden can get into the details of policies either.
No, Biden's like Trump's kryptonite when it comes to these debates, because he's just so out to lunch that when Trump's hitting and trying to go and the guy doesn't react, like Trump doesn't know what to do with it. Like it was the most bizarre watching those last cycle debates where, Trump against Clinton, is a boxing match. They're going, and then like you said, it was like it came across as like elder abuse because the other candidates out to lunch.
Right. Well, I remember in the debates with Clinton, right? Like Trump did like all these, he's a total like internet troll and meme. That's what Trump is. And so he had in the front row of the debates, like all of like, Bill Clinton's accusers, right? Sitting on the front end just to troll her and get her off the game. Likewise, really Trump just needs to show up with like licking an ice cream cone. Like the internet would explode and like Biden would start salivating and be like, ice cream, that's mine. You got to, do some mind games.
We're talking with Andrew McGuire. He's a brand strategist for some of the nation's biggest brands: Ritz-Carlton, Chipotle, Frontier Airlines, Einstein Brothers, Bissell, P&G. We'll continue this conversation. Feel free to give us a call and tell us what you think. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let us know, what would your brand advice be? I'm going to ask him about Biden, how you would fix and scramble Biden, or scramble to fix Biden in a second. Hey, next week, Wednesday, I've got Joyce and Brent Tolliver from Roll 'em Out Shelves coming out to the Hunt House, where they are going to be installing our Roll 'em Out Shelves. They've already been out to measure everything. Guys, this was like having your brother and your mom over. They are so personable. We talked faith. We talked family. We talked about our mutual love for this country. They are with us on all the values. Then we got to work, and they measured every nook and cranny. We do not have a big kitchen. We live on a small little ranch house and 6 people, and we're all climbing over each other each time it's dinner time at our place. So everything's kind of stacked on top of each other in these drawers. We really needed Roll 'em Out shelves, and my wife loves to be organized. She was very excited about this. So they got to work measuring everything. They showed us the difference, because we have some shelves that pull out, but these are builder grade. The stuff that Roll 'em Out shelves had, these shelves that you can pull out from your kitchen, from your laundry room, from your bathroom. These are high quality Baltic birch wood built right here in Colorado, and it's guaranteed for life. So you want to work with good people. You want to be able to expand your kitchen and be able to store more things. Roll 'em Out shelves will allow you to easily access your pots, pans, and other essentials, eliminating all the chaos, increasing speed and functionality in your home. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space. This product is guaranteed for life. Give them a call for a free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. That's 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you. We'll continue with Andrew McGuire. Billy out celebrating his daughter's graduation. He'll be back tomorrow. Give us a call, though. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy out today, celebrating his daughter's college graduation. We'll have him back in tomorrow. By the way, tomorrow we got George Brockler and Janak Joshi joining us. So tomorrow's going to be a fantastic show. Coming up later today, 8 o'clock, Rabbi Hillel Goldberg, Intermountain Jewish News, going to give us an update on the war in Israel and Hamas and Europe. A number of European countries moving to recognize Palestine as a state. And you know what the ICC is trying to do. They're trying to put warrants and go after Israel's leaders. He'll give us an update on that. And then Gabe Evans, candidate for Congressional District 8. That's Yadira Caraveo's seat in kind of northern part of Denver, the city of Denver. He's going to be joining us in the 9 o'clock hour. So great conversations coming up. Joining us in studios, Andrew McGuire. He's a brand expert for dozens of companies: Bissell, P&G, Dish, Blue Moon, Otterbox, Discovery Channel, NBC Sports, Duracell, Starbucks, Lexus, Ritz-Carlton, you name it. He's provided some brand strategy. Just prior to the break, we talked about how Donald Trump protects his brand in order to win in November. I'm going to ask you about Joe Biden now. My sense, Andrew McGuire, is that if the election was today, Donald Trump wins. Could be wrong on that, but that's my sense. If you're advising Joe Biden to get across the finish line in November and win, what do you do? What do you say?
Oh, Trans Am Joe. Yeah, first I would say, like, I'm wearing kind of I'm stoked to be here. You know, I like growing up watching WKRP with my dad. Like, I was like, oh, the radio is awesome. I did some radio DJing in college, and of course, you know, loved the show Frasier. You know, and from Rush to now, you know, Jeff Hunt. Like the radio.
That's
guys.
a fall.
And maybe also because I've always been told I have a face for radio, so this is kind of my moment. But anyway, thanks for having me. Well, yeah. So in talking with brands, I think. You know, it's important to separate the kind of the brand from the person, just as usually we want to separate even the policies from the person, you know, just entertaining at that level. Because I know some people can't even hear like advice to Joe or advice to Trump because you're completely in the other camp. So suspend that partisan where we sit in the camp into the conversation. So that said, I think where Joe does the best is Trans Am Joe. You know, wearing the aviators, that kind of vision of Joe. But really, when you look at the last election cycle, he was presented and pitched as return to normalcy, right? He was the antidote to the Trump chaos, whether it was Trump causing the chaos in the media. We could debate that, but so for him to win or how he won that last cycle was really about like the promise for normalcy. But of course, the last 3 years, we realized, well, the craziness of the world didn't go away when Trump went away. It actually, you know, hockey sticked up.
Right.
And so he's got the reality issues of the everyday life. Because when we talk about the voter, like, you know, can he get those same voters back? You know, as Ted Lasso says, be a goldfish. You know, why a goldfish? You know, he tells the soccer players that because they have the shortest memory. Probably only second to the voters because you forget all the big Trump headlines. You forget all the crazy different headlines. So both candidates have an opportunity to constantly reinvent themselves on one hand. But what people don't forget, they may forget the headlines and the different narratives, but they don't forget the daily things. Like I said earlier, like they just came from the gas station, just came from the bills, or they're in a place where they have high crime and the fear. Like the realities will always punch that in the face. So you can't gaslight and speak and promise what's not actually in the market. So that's his danger. He's got to be able to connect and reach against those problems. But from a brand standpoint, like I think he can't out Trump as far as being like the everyday likable guy because he's just a politician. He's just not quite there. But if he wants to get back to where he wins, which is you know, people have a sense that he's, you know, steady, even and normal and calm. He needs to project that by, I think, really pushing away from his base. If he's going to be this defender of democracy, the biggest thing he could do is, you know, is push back against some of the lawfare or, you know, doing things that might push back against the base because his base will vote for him no matter what because of the visceral hatred towards Trump. So he needs kind of pull a Clinton and like pull a little bit towards the center a little bit from a policy standpoint, but just from a brand standpoint, you know, going from normal and boring one in 2016, but when the world's on fire, people are looking for someone who could solve problems and get out there. So he really needs to up that confidence game and not actually be that goldfish himself and forgetting things.
I found that his approach to the economy just right now isn't connecting. So what they do is he runs out there and he's like, the stock market's about 40,000 or 40,000 points or whatever it is. And the rest of us that are like, bro, I'm on credit card debt, or my savings is dwindling. That's a message that doesn't connect with me. Maybe the economy will turn ish, but I think the inflation is so bad right now and continues to get worse. And the reason that unemployment's low is because people are working 2 jobs. Just about everybody in my life has 2 jobs right now to try to cover the $12,000 difference you need to make up because of inflation. What I'm saying is 4 years ago, you could make it on what you had, but now you have to raise an additional 12,000 just to live at that same standard of living 4 years ago. So when he runs out there and talks about how great the stock market is doing, that seems to fall flat to me. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that goes both ways, right? I mean, like, and again, I think that's that disconnection from Wall Street to Main Street.
Yeah.
Even though, the majority of, suburbia or people who have 401ks, they're connected to Wall Street. I mean, you have your IRAs and stuff like that. But day-to-day life, I mean, that's still kind of liquid. It's not liquid money that you need to pay the bills. So yeah, there is a danger to preach on that being great, but he's got to point to something. He doesn't have a lot of things to point to on the economic front. And so, that's where he gets mired in those. He thinks he wins on the left side because he can go into these intersectional issues because their strategy isn't about getting the large populist demographic, but it's about pulling together a bunch of really niche issues and audiences about what they care about. And that's why you see the loan forgiveness and all those other different policies that he's doing, because he's like, I could use more government and more handouts. The more government solutions I bring, I could be that grandpa that like gives candy to all the kids, better than sniffing their hair. So it's like get more giveaways from their grandpa. So, but that's kind of where he wins on that side of the aisle. So like being that nice grandpa that's giving away ice cream and candy from the government versus being the grumpy old man, get off my lawn complaining about Trump. Or
no, the one area he's winning is on abortion with this culture. I mean, pro-life groups are not winning in Ohio, Kansas, Michigan, Colorado. This is we took the abortion issue back to the voters, and the voters are saying in this culture, and I'm about as pro-life as you can get, but I'm a realist, and the voters are going, we want the right to have an abortion. What's your advice let's start with Joe Biden on that issue? Because I see he could potentially do the Mark Udall, if you remember from a few years ago.
Mark Uterus, or these
Mark Uterus, right? Because, and they called him that because he wouldn't talk about anything other than abortion. Like literally everything else is going to crap. And here he is, talking about abortion. You're like, come on, is there any other topic you want to talk about? So that's where I see that he could potentially have a liability, but that's a winning issue right now for Joe Biden.
Yeah, it is. I think with any winning issue is the danger of being that one issue candidate. Same with Trump. Like he can't be just about the wall. Back in the day, he had to bring in some of the other pillars. Because I think because the majority, we look at the stats. Like majority of people do lean for yes, there should be some abortion rights out there. But they're also not hard numbers for 100% against or 100% for. So you gotta ride it in the middle. But even most people who have strong opinions, it's not an issue that people feel comfortable on a day-to-day talking about, just because whether it's polarized or even most people who are the most pro-abortion, at the end of the day, when they're going to bed looking at the ceiling at night, they know what's going on with it. So I don't know. I just don't think it's a topic that pushes people towards a vision for the future of the country. And I think that's where both candidates really need to have is, what is your vision for the country? And, and it's not just a slogan, but slogans get you there. Like when you had Hillary Clinton, I'm with her. That was about her. Trump was make America great again. So make it about Americans and about their daily life. What's the vision for the future? And, abortion, I think is an important issue, but I think there are other ones that could connect with people a little bit further.
So let's talk about the debate. You gave us the advice on what Donald Trump needs to do in his debate. What does Joe Biden do in these upcoming 2 debates, one in June, one in September against Donald Trump?
Well, I mean, I had said, Biden or Trump should show up just licking an ice cream cone because that would just blow up the internet. So, maybe, I don't know. It doesn't have to be a big stunt like that for Biden, to get in Trump's head. I don't know. I think debates are strange. Like political pundits get really geeky about them. They make a few headlines and then they disappear. So I don't really think the debates will move the needle super huge either direction. So in that sense, there's a little bit of pressure off of both of them. I think it's like the State of the Union. Just get through it and don't die on camera. Like, I think that's a win because you have the entire media, carrying. They will lift him up no matter what he says. He's going to win that debate. So he just needs to show up and be competent. I think the main thing is just to be likable. Like if he had a gimmick, maybe it is the aviator glasses. But like President Obama said about Joe, never underestimate his ability to F things up, and no one's underestimating that anymore. We're very capable that he could do that. But I think he just needs to be calm and collective because that's where he contrasts Trump. Like if Trump comes out like in attack mode, he needs to come out as just like the soft, gentle grandpa. But if Trump kind of is confident and collected, I think Biden's pivot there is probably to be a little bit more, play to his base because they're going to be the only ones watching and cheering.
Talking with Andrew McGuire, he's a brand expert for companies like Starbucks, Duracell, Lexus, Ritz-Carlton, Haagen-Dazs, you name it. He's probably advised them. So I want to let's talk about the wild card, Robert F. Kennedy. What do you think of his brand?
Well, he's got the Kennedy brand that he's kind of haloing off of in one sense, but also he's playing that maverick independent thing. I think of some of the independent candidates back in my lifetime, even like Ross Perot back in the day, right? Like we all want to root for that third party. I think there's a real exhaustion with that binary choice that we have with the left and the right. It's the Coke Pepsi challenge, but you're like, dude, I don't drink soda, but if I had to choose, so you're picking a different evil. So I think he has the opportunity to zig and zag. So he's trying to cherry pick from both sides, different issues that maybe get lost in the conversation.
And who do you think that hurts more, Trump or Biden?
I think when he first came out the gate, he had a risk to take from Trump, but he seems to be going a little bit more left with his. So I think he'll pull more from Biden, just from, whether it be his stance on abortion to just Kennedy, the old timers that go into the voting booth and they're like, oh, Kennedy, like you'll get a percentage of those people who think he's, one of the actual, like the OG Kennedys on the ticket. Right.
So is a little bit. Did you watch the documentary they did about him? Who is Bobby Kennedy? It was about 30 minutes. They posted it on YouTube. I'm putting you on the spot, but
no,
I haven't seen it.
Haven't seen it.
I thought it was pretty good. Bill and I discussed it. Bill, not such a fan, but I thought it was pretty good because he took on all of his critiques and criticisms and those types of things. So he addressed a lot of the vaccine issues, those types of things that hang around him. But when those Kennedys, there's like 4 or 5 of them that came out in a video against him. They're all like, we're Kennedys, we're Democrats, we don't support Robert. They all look so inbred to me. There's a point where the Kennedys are like, they don't quite have the Ritz, sparkle and shine that they used to have anymore.
Right. Well, I think he could use that, right? We all have kind of crazy family, and we have family that are for or against us. So like, I think that's not necessarily a flaw against him, but I think he's super likable. Unfortunately for him, I like a lot of his ideas, and I think could be an opportunity for him. But I think, it sounds shallow, but like I said, like I may have a face for TV or whatever, but like, unfortunately, like he doesn't have a voice for radio. Right. I know he's got that condition going on, but that is just so hard to hear him. So like, my advice to him would be to like, just
AI it.
Yeah, maybe AI, but like really double down and, like, he should own Twitter in the written form and stuff like that, and really get get the ideas out there, because it's harder to hear them in the long form. But ironically, though, in the long form is where he slays it. Like he goes on those 3-hour podcasts and he might go deep in some conspiracy theory stuff here and there, but in general, though, he goes deep into the issues in a thoughtful way. And that's why I think you're not going to get that, unfortunately, from Trump or Biden. It's just, they won't sit on a 4-hour podcast, like Vivek did. Like he did every podcast possible, like 3 hours a piece, every day, and talked about everything and offered a vision for the country. So that's where I would like to see, candidates go in those long form things. But as an advisor to them, I wouldn't say do that, because that's where they take all those different things and cherry pick them out of context.
Let's go to the phone lines here. Frank in Denver. Frank, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning. Enjoying your commentary, Andrew. I was just going to ask you, what led you into this branding thing? What was your career path, and what resulted in you finally going into this? What kind of books do you read, and any suggestions for books? Just those general questions.
Oh yeah, thanks for asking. Well, I mean, I had the great fortune of I grew up in a creative household. My mom was a writer, my father an Emmy award-winning television producer. So I kind of grew up, as I would say, nepotism, privilege, whatever. But like I had that opportunity to grow up in that space. So that was always intriguing to me. So like when my friends had jobs like working at Domino's Pizza and stuff, I was designing, brochures for people and websites. So I had the opportunity to get into it early on. But what captivates me about it is certainly as a believer, that we're created in God's image. God is the ultimate creative. Like we have the ability, unlike any species or animals, to create things and to create our future. And of course, to know that we're going to die, we have that mortality. But we can create the future and the narrative. So the power of narrative to communicate. And to influence people and really to determine your life aim. And so with media, I could see from a 30-second ad to make you buy something that you don't need, that you can't afford. I was like, that is powerful. So there's that power to influence people got me into it. So I got into, I studied advertising and public relations in college. But these days you don't need any of that. I mean, there's so many great resources out there. I mean, a great book, Donald Miller's Story Brand is a fantastic one, because it's all about just story. And I make every candidate or anybody read that book. And then another one isn't necessarily a marketing book, but Simon Sinek's Start With Why. 2 very great books to really just understand the power of narrative and how to connect with people. But for both candidates or any brand, I think, and Donald Miller says this best in a Story Brand book, which is, it's not about you. The audience is the hero, and you're like they're Daniel's son, and you're Mr. Miyagi. You're the guide guiding him through. And so I don't know. I'm just really intrigued by that side of it, and that's what kind of brings me into it, to have that influence, to make, as Steve Jobs said, to make a dent in the universe. And to me, like my tool, my method to do that is media and communications.
Frank, appreciate the call. Frank from Denver. His line will be open 303-696-1971. Folks, I want to talk to you about the Colorado Farm Bureau. Whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last winter, it was a great year for winter fun, but the snow means even more to Colorado agriculture. I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect our future water resources. Guys, you've heard the saying before, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. Colorado is the roof of the West, which means it all starts here and then it washes down other ways. You got to have good people out there protecting our water rights. The people of Colorado agriculture continue improving the efficiency of their irrigation systems and adopting farming practices that help crops use less water to grow. They're planting drought-resistant varieties, and they're leading talks with state policymakers about how to preserve water supplies when we have good years like this last one. My friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. I recommend you join and become a member today. Go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to join them. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. Nikki Haley says she'll be voting for Donald Trump in November. The former South Carolina governor, who challenged Trump for the Republican nomination, says that while Trump's policies aren't, quotes, perfect, she still prefers him to President Joe Biden. During her run for the GOP nomination, Haley described Trump as, quotes, unhinged and full of chaos. Her comments, though, do not amount to a full endorsement of the former president. The families of the victims of the Robb Elementary School massacre are suing the Texas State Police over its botched response to the rampage that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Tony Waterman reports.
Nearly 100 state troopers are targeted in the lawsuit, which accuses them of failing to follow their training. And earlier this year, the Justice Department did release a scathing report of the incident, detailing what it called cascading failures in law enforcement's response. Families say that none of the nearly 400 officers who responded have been held accountable and believe that lives could have been saved if police acted faster. Now, separately, the victims' families say they reached a $2 million settlement with the city of Uvalde, which includes enhanced training for local police officers.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to the phone lines. Joan in Lakewood, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joan. Joan, we got you?
Good morning.
Good
Jeff.
morning.
Missing Bill. I'm missing Bill because I think it's great. You know, these days to get somebody to graduate from high school is a big accomplishment. So he needs to be proud of that child.
Oh, well, he's a very dedicated father, and I appreciate that about him. So he's happily celebrating her graduation. Go ahead, Joan.
I've been really interested in listening to this brand stuff. Thank you for bringing Andrew on. And you all are trying to build a brand, and I think you've done a pretty good job so far with your show. And I think KNUS has a great thing with the talk show stuff. And the other day I had an example of it because I was at the Jeffco County Commissioners meeting, and I had a commissioner come up to me and say, haven't heard you for a while. What's going on? And I was like, well, I'm working on the tomatoes in the garden thing. And it was just interesting to me how broad of an audience you appeal to. So how do you continue to keep that brand going?
Oh, Joan, that means a lot to us. Thanks so much. And it really comes down to listeners like you all and the station's vision that this is the place where everybody in Denver has their voice on the most important issues that we're facing together as a community. So Joan, your calls, your listeners, you're listening to our show. All of that matters. I sure appreciate it. Let's go to Jay real quick in Castle Rock. Jay, you're on the Jeff and Bill show.
Hi, I had a quick question for your marketing person, and I can certainly hang on if you have a break. First of all, did you work on the Starbucks marketing campaign that basically convinced where I'm sitting at Starbucks to pay $4 for coffee and like $8 for a latte, and it's premium brand and a nice place to sit in and have a business meeting and things like that?
Yeah, I had a great opportunity to work on Starbucks a couple of years ago, primarily for their in-store work. But in general, yeah, they're a great brand because they created that third space where you can go. It's changed dramatically in recent years. The brand has more as
drug overdose,
as
needles,
as a drive-through app-based.
All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. We'll be right back. 8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt. Bill Thorpe out visiting his daughter's graduation today. He'll be back tomorrow. Joining us in studio is Andrew McGuire, brand specialist with many companies like Starbucks, Lexus, Ritz-Carlton, Duracell, many companies. His website's andrewmcguire.com. That's spelled MCGUIRE.com, andrewmcguire.com if you want to know more about him. Coming up here in just a second, Rabbi Hillel Goldberg, editor of the Intermountain Jewish newspaper, is going to join us as some European countries are looking to recognize a Palestinian state. What is that going to mean for this battle taking place in the Middle East? We'll get insight from him and more in the 9 o'clock hour. Gabe Evans, candidate for Congressional District 8, challenging Yadira Caraveo for her seat. He's in a competitive primary with Janak Joshi, who will be joining us tomorrow, by the way. So Gabe Evans, 9 o'clock hour. Great few hours coming up on the Jeff and Bill Show. Be sure to tune in for all of it. Let's check in on the news, the Blake Olson news.
Good morning, Jeff and Andrew. 52 and sunny in Denver. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer planning to put a bipartisan border bill up for another vote. The bill would reform the nation's asylum laws and give President Biden the power to shut down the border once illegal immigrant crossings average 4,000 per day. How about 0,000 per day? Karine Jean-Pierre really doesn't think the president has the power to shut down the border.
The president has the authority to do something about this unilaterally. Congress is in a divided government right now. Why isn't he doing anything?
Why should he have to do it unilaterally? Why should we do it in a legislative way? And let's not forget that negotiated. I know, but undo some. Wait, so you're right. He took many executive actions before.
She is horrible. A Medina alert has been issued by the Colorado Bureau of Investigations for a white Kia Sedona after the driver was involved in a hit and run that left a cyclist with serious injuries last night in the Central Park neighborhood. Police also searching for a hit and run driver who struck and killed a pedestrian in Denver Tuesday night. It happened near 61st and Federal, and authorities say the man's body was found lying in the road just after 11 o'clock. He was hit by a car driving northbound on Federal, but no vehicle description has been released. Some House lawmakers want the Pentagon to rehire military service members who were fired for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. The House Armed Services Committee adopted the amendment to the annual defense policy bill, but it might not survive a meeting later this year in the Senate. President Biden will host a state dinner at the White House tonight at 4:30 probably, according to what Jeff knows, for the president of Kenya. And former President Trump holding a campaign rally at a park in the South Bronx today. This after we learned that the FBI agents who raided Trump's home 2 years ago were instructed to prepare to use deadly force while executing the warrant. And then there's former FBI Director James Comey on tour now, who hates Trump.
Oh, serious. For the Justice Department and the FBI, because Trump is coming for those institutions. He knows their power, and I think he has regrets that he didn't work hard enough to corrupt them last time.
Oh, wow. So he's working because he knows he didn't corrupt them enough.
So he's coming for them, and that's a danger for all Americans. He's going to put people in positions in those organizations. He didn't have all stars the last time. He'll have the bottom of the barrel this time, but people who will want to do his will, and that should worry every American.
So what should we do?
I mean, that's actually fundamentally wrong. What I've seen Republicans and conservatives get ready. You've seen this with the Heritage Foundation Project. They have thousands, tens of thousands of resumes ready to go. It was the last time in 2016 that Republicans kind of held Trump at arm's length and were like, I don't know if I really want to be involved in this administration. In this case, they're ready to go day one. And they're going to root out this type of corruption that you're seeing from guys like Comey.
Exactly. So what does Comey want us to do?
This election matters because of a reason like that. People have to participate. You cannot sit on the sideline. I don't care how you feel about Joe Biden. You must vote for him because the consequences on the other side are too severe.
Like me getting fired or jailed. My goodness. He's ridiculous. Things about to get busier at DIA and on the highways today. Memorial Day weekend begins. The cheapest gas in the metro area is at Costco in Lone Tree, $2.87 a gallon, and also at Sam's Club in Lone Tree.
And the right man for the job's coming up. The Rockies' steadiest hitter all year long, Ryan McMahon.
Hit well to right field. Going back is Nevin to the track, and it's gone. Towering shot hit by Ryan McMahon to right field.
First heard Drew and then Jerry. And the Rockies end a 4-game losing streak, 4-3 and 12 getaway day this afternoon.
Doncic fakes, bumps, fires, good. Big shot.
Oh, that was a good one last night. Luka Doncic, 33, 8 assists, 6 boards, 3 steals. Kyrie Irving, 30, and the Mavs beat the T-Wolves in game 1 of the NBA Western Conference Finals, 108-105 in Minneapolis last night. 48 in Lafayette, 49 in Littleton, and 52 in Denver. Jeff and Andrew in for Billy this morning. Continue on this Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for a warm day today, up near 80 under sunny to partly sunny skies, getting a bit breezy, though, by afternoon. You'll notice the winds picking up later today as a front approaches. Behind the front, cooler tonight, lows down to near 40. Not as warm Friday, a high near 70. Maybe an isolated shower late. Saturday, low to mid-70s, a chance Saturday for showers and thunderstorms. Near 70 Sunday, a chance of showers and thunderstorms, drier and warmer Monday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, joining us on the Jeff and Bill Show is Rabbi Hillel Goldberg. He's the editor of the Intermountain Jewish News. The Associated Press reporting yesterday that Norway, Ireland, and Spain have recognized a Palestinian state in a historic move. Irish Prime Minister Simone Harris said on Wednesday it was coordinated with Spain and Norway, a historic and important day for Palestine. Several other European countries have in the past weeks indicated that they plan to recognize a Palestinian state, arguing a two-state solution is essential for lasting peace in the region. I'm pretty sure we had that on October 6th, and we saw where that went. Joining us is Rabbi Hillel Goldberg. Thanks so much for being on the program, Rabbi.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
What is your response to some recognize Palestine as a state?
My response is sadness, because the foundation of a Palestinian state now, and from the time it was first proposed in 1947, has been, from the point of view of the people who were to occupy it, to live in it, a rejection of the Jewish state. It's not simply a unilateral move. Oh, let's make a state, let's have a state. No, it's a double move. The idea is, let's have a state that will destroy another state. Keep in mind, this idea of a Palestinian state and a two-state solution goes back to the original partition plan of the United Nations in 1947, which suggested the creation of two states. The Jews in the area accepted its state. It became Israel. The Arabs in the area, who, by the way, did not call themselves Palestinians at the time, rejected that and invaded the new nation state of Israel to try to destroy it. Just like on October 7, 2023, some 76 years later, Hamas did the same. So it evokes in me sadness because it avoids the primary problem. The primary problem is not that Palestinians don't have a state. The primary problem is that they want a state together with the destruction of another state.
Talking with Rabbi Hillel Goldberg, editor of the Intermountain Jewish News. Rabbi, are there Palestinians that are not supportive of Hamas? Are you familiar with folks that, would want to live at peace with Israel? Or I don't really get the sense that there are many.
Well, here's the basic problem. Going all the way back to prior to the British Mandate, when the first violence against Jews in modern Palestine in 1921 or so, there's a great discrepancy between the leadership and between the people. Now, how wide that discrepancy is today, I'm not sure. But in a way, it doesn't matter, because what the history has been and still is that however many peaceful Palestinians or Arabs in the era there may be, however many want to live in peace, and certainly there are, they are overruled by the leadership via assassination. So it's very difficult for an Arab leader or not a leader to stand up and say, let's live in peace. The first one who did it on the highest level was Anwar Sadat, which eventually led to the first peace treaty between Israel and an Arab state. But he was assassinated. And this is so unfortunate because, yes, of course, we want to live in peace. Many Arabs want to live in peace. The Jews want to live in peace. But the leadership is extreme, and the leadership's methods are violent. And that intimidates and deters peace-loving Arabs from, asserting themselves.
So, Rabbi, what does victory look like then in this part of the world? I don't know how you have a two-state solution. It doesn't make sense to me how you can live next to people that want to eradicate you and believe that there's just going to be ongoing peace. So what does victory look like for Israel in the Israel-Hamas war?
It was said some time ago, not every problem has a solution, by which we mean a solution is comprehensive. What victory looks like is for Israel to have a strong, independent state, a strong military, the capacity to ward off those who invade, as they did on October 7th, for the purpose of raping young girls, murdering people, mutilating people, burning people alive. And keep in mind that what happened on October 7th, which is now called the invasion of southern Israel, is in a way a misnomer, because it was only an invasion of southern Israel because the Israelis stopped them before they could go further north. But that was the intent, to go throughout Israel. So it's not a happy scenario because one side doesn't want to live with the other under any circumstances. It's really a mistake to look at it as an issue over land, because the land that was offered, let's say in 1947 for an Arab state, it did not, it was not prejudiced by that which was offered to the Jewish state. And then in the year 2000 at the Camp David attempt to create a Palestinian state, by which time there had been a certain number of Israeli communities established on the West Bank, which would have reduced the area available for a Palestinian state. And that issue was resolved by Israel offering to swap territory from within the 1967 borders of Israel to make up for the land that is now lived on by Jewish communities in the West Bank. So the land would have been the same. It's not an issue over land. It's an issue over principle. So you're asking, what does victory look like? Victory looks like the capacity to be a productive state, to invent medical devices that save lives around the world. You and I right now are talking to me via cell phone. A cell phone was invented in Israel. So victory looks like Israel keep doing all the wonderful things it's doing, but unfortunately needing to live with a strong military and needing to live with its youth growing up understanding they will serve in the military.
Talking with Rabbi Hillel Goldberg, editor of the Intermountain Jewish News, the top Jewish newspaper here in the Rocky Mountain region. I want to ask you about the death of the president of Iran in a helicopter crash. Also, his director of foreign affairs, I believe, also died with him. Does that change Iran in any way? Are there going to be movements to try to modernize and get rid of the radical extremists in charge of Iran?
Surely you and I and countless millions of people around the world hope so. But it's impossible to know in advance. And if you ask me, I'm skeptical, because the death of an individual is not the same thing as the death of an ideology. And short of a popular uprising in Iran, which has been attempted and which has been put down by this man who was killed, who was called the Butcher of Iran, for his brutal put down of, popular expression of discontent with the government. As I say, short of the death of that ideology, I can't see there being a change simply because one person went down. But you never know whether, given the end of this individual's life, the fact that the supreme leader of Iran is 85, you never know whether instability will result, which could change the country. But we don't know.
I want to ask you about the ICC, the International Criminal Court, looking, not yet, but being pressed by their prosecutors to issue warrants for violation of human rights for both Benjamin Netanyahu, the leadership in Israel, as well as leaders of Hamas. Why is it a problem that the International Criminal Court send out these types of warrants against Israel?
It's a twofold problem. The first problem is for the court itself, because it will lose its legitimacy. The Wall Street Journal called it the epitaph for the court, because when you equate a country that's defending itself with a terrorist organization that chops people's heads off and rapes young women and wants to do it again by its own admission, with a country that's defending himself against that, then the credibility of the court is severely damaged. The possibility of the United States, which has never accepted the authority of the court, the possibility of that change is zero. So that's one problem. The other problem is that there are those in the world, certainly in the United Nations, who do accept the credibility of that court, and therefore its issuance of warrants of arrest for Israeli leaders for crimes that didn't exist contributes to the continuing delegitimization of Israel and the continued growth of anti-Semitism around the world.
I think that's exactly right. You saw it on The View the other day, where The View ladies are saying, well, the International Criminal Court says that Israel is engaging in human rights abuses and they deserve to be arrested. That is pure propaganda messaging that anti-Semites are going to use. And it comes from the ICC, which, by the way, Israel and the United States are not a part of because of shenanigans like this. Rabbi Hillel Goldberg, I want to ask you about how Jews in Colorado are doing right now. You've had protests on the Auraria campus. You've had protests at DU, ongoing efforts on college campuses. You are better tied in to the Jewish community than anybody else in the state of Colorado. What is the feeling among Jews right now with all this going on?
Despite the fact that there are these problems on the campuses, on Auraria, DU, despite the fact that Golda Meir House was closed down for a while by protesters, despite the anti-Semitism that is spewed by these, by these protesters, or at least by many of them, despite the fact that anti-Semitism, the denial of the Jewish right to self-determination in Israel is expressed more widely than before, I think that overall Jews in Colorado feel safe. I want to share with you a couple of personal experiences. I'm walking down the aisles of King Soopers. somebody comes up to me and expresses support for Israel. I'm visibly Jewish, I have a beard, I wear a yarmulke. People could tell I'm Jewish. So a perfect stranger comes up to me and expresses support for Israel. I'm going to the synagogue Friday night. I'm still out on the street walking in, and somebody comes up to me and says, I'm Catholic. You know, I pray over there at the cathedral in 14th and Logan, Colfax and Logan. And wants to know we're praying for Israel. I had an experience like that a couple other times that I could detail. So I think that despite all of this verbal and dangerous expression of anti-Semitism, that there is definitely a sense that, you know, in Colorado, we are a tolerant people in this state. We had that reputation. I think we're still that way. Hopefully, that will predominate.
I'm glad to hear that. It gives me hope about the direction of this state in light of everything that you detailed, the challenges that we're seeing on college campuses. Do you think, I'll ask you about, I mean, you're a man of history. You reflect on history. I've had a chance to spend time in Intermountain Jewish News and look at the great heritage you inherited from your father and what you're trying to continue that legacy with the Intermountain Jewish News. When you look at the DNC convention in Chicago this year, there was a lot of talk that this could look like Chicago 1968. There are already anti-Semitic organizations, pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist organizations planning to protest there. Do you think that the DNC convention could turn into a bad situation with those types of folks protesting?
It could. I hope it doesn't, but it could. And the reason it could is because I hate to say this, but I think President Biden panders to people who don't object to Israeli policies, but object to Israel per se, and therefore to anything Israel does of any nature. I think that it's really critical that anti-Semitism be called out, and the idea that anti-Zionism is not necessarily anti-Semitism, I think, has been put to rest by the fact that on these campus protests, it's Jews who are held up to abuse, sometimes threatened with violence. Not the people doing this not knowing what the opinions of these Jews might be about Israel. So, I think there's worry. What I hope is that the self-interest of the Democratic Party in winning the election would have the good sense to understand that this would only undermine their chances, and therefore speak out strongly and take whatever actions necessary to close down verbal expressions of anti-Semitism.
I think that there's an element, Rabbi Hillel Goldberg, that is willing to sacrifice the loss of this election, the Joe Biden election, because this is the big question, right? You have all these protests, and they're targeting Joe Biden. They're calling him genocidal Joe. They're not going after Donald. It's really interesting. They're not going after Donald Trump. They're not picketing and protesting outside, but they're going after Joe Biden. And I ask myself, why? Because I think they want a party. They want a major U.S. party that is not affiliated with Jews and in fact is willing to reject Zionism, not support Israel. They want a Democrat party that is willing to cut off funding to Israel and stand with Palestinians. And I think the reason they're targeting Joe is because they're never going to get that with Republicans. And if it means losing the election, that's a greater win. I mean, we see that in some other cases where, hard right organizations will target soft Republicans because they'd rather send a message to future candidates than win this particular election. Is there an element out there from your perspective that wants the Democrat Party to abandon Jews entirely?
Well, I hope you're wrong. However, there's no question that in history, small vocal, cohesive groups and voices end up dominating. And therefore, a possible fear that we'll become a minority party would not be a deterrent. As I say, I hope you're wrong, but it's a credible way of looking at things, because there's no doubt that very small, seemingly insignificant, seemingly extreme voices can take over. I was a student at the University of California in 1964 when the free speech movement occurred. And I noticed, I followed this, and it struck me then and to this day how very small groups who were cohesive and vocal and seemingly marginal can actually end up triumphing and taking over an entire body politic, in that case, the student body. So you could be right. I hope you're wrong.
I do too. I do too. You never want an issue to become partisan. If you care about issues, you want it to be bipartisan in nature, where both parties support you. And I hope that both parties will continue to support Israel, but that genocidal Joe attack from the left, we've got to be watching Chicago. They are planning to make a stand there. It could make this year's DNC convention look like 1968. Got a text message here, Rabbi. Michael Chris Lepp's brother-in-law. I'm the guy that made your mom's favorite bookshelf, Rabbi. So they wanted to say hi to you on the text message thread. We've got Andrew McGuire in studio. He's co-hosting with me today. He's got a question for you, Rabbi.
Hey, Rabbi, I'm just curious, from a brand standpoint, obviously we know, traditionally, Jews overwhelmingly vote Democrat. Just curious, with all this going on from your perspective, have you seen any shift or possibility that people would, go for, mean tweet Trump if it means survival? Does it have that?
Yes, I have seen a verbal shift. Whether it'll actually materialize, I don't know. But people like Alan Dershowitz and others are saying in direct letters to the president that don't take us for granted. Those days might be over. So yes, there is talk among some Democrat, thought leaders, as we call them, expressing the view that they may depart from the Democratic Party. I do have to say that from time to time, not as strongly as now, there are such statements, but in the past, they've never changed anything. The great majority of Jews vote Democratic. I'm not exactly sure why, at least in the last few years, but there is more talk now about that changing.
What's your read on open anti-Semites like Elizabeth Epps and Timmy Hernandez down at the state capitol? Because in some of those cases, they represent pretty significant Jewish communities in Denver. You think their time's going to come to an end here?
I hope so, but I'm not certain. And let me tell you what bothers me most about Representative Epps and Representative Hernandez. It's not even really what they believe. It's that they refuse to engage. This is a real danger point. When you engage and you're willing to listen, and of course, when you're willing to listen, the other side has to listen too. That's what engagement is. It's mutual. When that happens, there can be mutual enlightenment. There can be adjustments of opinions. So what frightens me about them is the refusal to engage, refusal to talk. We've invited Representative Epps at the Intermountain Jewish News before she was even elected to sit down, do an interview, tell us whatever you want, say whatever you want. Refused. Same thing with Representative Hernandez. It's really critical to engage. If you don't engage, then I think that's, I use a term I don't like to toss about lightly, but I think that's the beginning of fascism, when there's only one way, to the extent that there's nothing to be done with the opposition except to destroy it. This is dangerous. We have to engage.
Talking with Rabbi Hillel Goldberg. He's the editor of their Intermountain Jewish News. Their website's IJN.com. They have a special coupon, 18% off if you subscribe today. If you really want to understand what's happening in the Jewish community, they're a great resource, but also wonderful news coverage and opinion coverage. Intermountain Jewish News, IJN.com. Go sign up for a subscription there, and you can get 18% off today. They have a little pop-up that pops up there. Rabbi, thank you so much. Thank you for your leadership in the Jewish community, and thank you for your friendship and coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. Keep talking. That's engaging. That's what we all need to do.
Amen. Thank you so much, Rabbi. Friends, I want to talk to you a little bit about American financing. We know in today's economic climate, many of us find ourselves facing the challenge of managing our monthly expenses, and high credit card interest rates can trap you in a cycle of debt with balances that persist month after month. Guys, you got to get off of that high interest credit card debt. Paying only the minimum every month means it could take years to become debt-free. Reach out to American Financing, a trusted partner in helping American people achieve financial freedom. If you're a homeowner, they can tap into your home's equity and help you eliminate high-interest credit card debt. On average, their customers save $854 per month, equivalent to receiving a $10,000 annual raise. The process is straightforward and quick. You can close your loan in as little as 10 days by acting today. You might not even have to pay your next mortgage payment. It costs nothing to see how much you can save. This opportunity to regain control of your finances is too significant to ignore. Give them a call, 303-695-7000. American Financing, 303-695-7000, AmericanFinancing.net, NMLS 182334, ConsumerAccess.org. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. Florida's Rick Scott is running to replace Mitch McConnell as the top Republican in the Senate. In a letter to his colleagues, Scott said, quotes, "Leadership should reflect the views and aspirations of Republican voters." Senator McConnell, who's faced questions recently about his advanced age and health, announced earlier this year that he will step down from his leadership role after the election in November. Republicans are vying to take back control of the Senate from the Democrats. July the 4th won't just be a big day in the US this year, it's also the day voters in the UK will go to the polls. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak used good economic news as the opportunity to announce a general election. Here's John Beaver with more.
Legally, an election had to be held by the end of January next year, but Rishi Sunak has decided on a summer vote. To many, the announcement was a surprise. The latest opinion polls make grim reading for his Conservative Party. The Prime Minister used a drop in the rate of inflation to make the claim that he can be trusted with the economy and build on recent progress. But he admitted that he hasn't got everything right and now has 43 days to persuade the British public to give him another chance if he wants to stay in the top job.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Wrapped up a great interview with Rabbi Hillel Goldberg. I really appreciate the rabbi. I've known him for years and done this interfaith stuff, and got a chance to go down tour Intermountain Jewish newspaper. Great history. So his dad was like a legend in Denver, had his own television show for 17 years. He's got pictures with him and Billy Graham, Martin Luther King, all that stuff. They've been a center point for the Jewish community in Colorado. And with everything that's going on, what warmed my heart was hearing that people were coming up to him. Obviously looks Jewish, wears a yarmulke, long hair. He's a rabbi, and people coming up and saying they support Israel. Remember that. That meant something to him. And so if you see a Jew out and about, say you're praying for him. Say you're praying for the peace of Jerusalem. Say that you stand with Israel. That's important stuff. Good text message here. 1712. Jeff, I don't really mean to be this in a flippant way. All these European countries wanting a two-state solution, why don't they take the Palestinians? It's kind of like these sanctuary cities. It all looks good and seems good and honorable, but when the cities are overrun and their funds are emptied, then they don't like the idea. Man, there's a lot of truth to that. They won't take them. They won't, because you see what happens in Michigan when you bring radical Islamists into your community and you all put them in one community and neighborhood, and then they start yelling and chanting, death to America, and they bring those values over. Incredible point. What we're talking about is yesterday, a number of European states, Norway, Ireland, Spain, have recognized a Palestinian state in a historic move. Prime Minister of Ireland saying this is a historic and important day for Palestine. Meanwhile, other major European countries like France are like, we're not going to recognize a Palestinian state quite yet. I saw this news, New York Post, sickening new video shows Hamas line up female Israeli soldiers on October 7th and then talk about which ones they can get pregnant. I watched the video. So this was the family members of these Israeli girls. So if you've never been to Israel, you don't know how it is there. It's a really fascinating nation. It's a great nation, first of all, right? It's a democracy. It's a free market capitalism. They have they respect religious freedoms to a point, but I mean, they think about what they have to deal with. You have the holy sites for Muslims, Christians, Jews, all together, all within walking distance, and they generally keep them pretty well managed. But when you walk around Israel, it's kind of interesting because on a corner, you have a group of like 7 19-year-old girls, all ponytails with M16 slung around their back. And then on the corner across the street is a bunch of 19-year-old boys with, dressed up as soldiers with M16 slung around their back, and they're all talking about the girls over there. So it's a very unique community, but they have soldiers everywhere. And because of mandatory military service, pretty much everybody serves as a soldier. I mean, Wonder Woman served as in the Israeli army, Gal Gadot. So it is a very cool community. But when that October 7th attack happened, they attacked some of these little outposts, these little bases, and they grabbed a whole group of these teenage girls, beat them up. So in this video that was released by the families, because they want to put pressure on the Israeli government to try to find these girls, there's over 100 hostages still being held by Hamas. And beautiful girls, kind girls lined up, and these terrorists, oh my gosh, these guys, when you watch this video, it makes you incredibly sick because you can hear the terrorists gloating and announcing their plans to sexually assault these soldiers.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. As a father of 2 teenage girls myself, it's horrific. I mean, in this video, they're literally covered in blood. They're getting tossed and thrown around, and being taught on which one they're going to get pregnant. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. And, for the response from anybody to that to be like, oh, let's, the poor hostages, what do they have to say? Are we listening to them to somehow make them I'm sorry, not the poor hostage takers, to somehow like side with them and have sympathy with them. It's like, I'm sorry, like these girls, these innocent girls, release the girls. I mean, 5 of those girls are still hostages today. I mean, it's been over 230 days later.
Can you? I don't even want to go, because I have a teenage daughter too. You don't even want to go what these poor girls have had to deal with for the last 200 plus days. But the families of these girls feeling like they want the Israel government to do more. That's the reason they released this video. Now, I've seen the bigger one, the one that they screened at the White House. And because of our relationships within the Jewish community, they did a private screening here in Denver and went to watch it. Here's the thing you've got to learn about that. There's real evil, like real evil in this world. Not I'm a little deranged, not I'm angry at my mom, like I'm going to take and do what I want type of evil. And when that comes to your door, I remember calling my wife afterwards and being like, when that comes to your door, there's only one thing to do. Like there's really only one thing you can do. And that is fight back and pray to God you're armed and take that evil out, because it's either going to be you or them. There's no middle ground here. These aren't people that are looking to have a conversation. They're there to rape. They're there to assault. They're there to kill. And you saw it in the video they played. These Hamas terrorists would call their parents.
Oh,
so and brag about how many Jews they just killed in that door or in that room. Mom, I got 3. I killed 3 Jews. And then the moms, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, little Hamas terrorist. You did your family honor. You did great.
It's just disgusting dehumanization.
What the hell are you going to do to fight back against that?
Yeah, that's
you think you're going to like have a nice conversation with that type of mentality?
That's yeah, exactly. That's not something solved at a negotiation table, right? And where's the outrage for that? Like, there should be people in the streets angry about that. You know, I mean, we get more angry about microaggressions, you know, like.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You see, the video is only 3 minutes long, but we know that they sat in the same place for 2 or 3 hours. And in front of their eyes, they saw their friends that were murdered on the floor. The video was shown to parents just last month for the first time. You could see how afraid. Could you imagine this as a dad having to see how afraid his daughter and fellow soldiers were when they said, "You are pretty. I can get you pregnant." I don't know what a young girl who is hearing this is thinking, the father lamented. It's crazy as a father that my girl is in this situation. I can't help her. I can't do anything to help her. The father said that he and other parents backed the decision to release the video to the public to put pressure on Israel's leadership to advance negotiations to secure the release of the hostages in Gaza. The women are among roughly 100 hostages who have remained under Hamas captivity for more than 7 months. The video is a damning testament to the nation's failure to bring home the hostages who have been forsaken for 229 days, the group said in a statement, urging that the hostage exchange talks with Hamas resume. The Israeli government must not waste even one more moment. It must return to the negotiating table today. The video, which was shot inside of a bomb shelter, shows the Palestinian terrorists in complete control. By 9 a.m. on October 7th, the government can be seen inspecting the injured and bloodied women, as they called them, dogs, and ordered them to pose for photos with their assailants. Oh, man, heartbreaking stuff. So it's got to continue. Go ahead, Andrew.
I mean, where's Michelle Obama and her hashtag of
Right.
bring them home? I mean, like, seriously. I mean, people are talking, oh, she'll be this, surprise candidate. But it's like, actions, where are the actions with those words? I mean, that should be the campaign. Where is the outreach and support for all the women? I mean, talk about women's issue right now. All those girls that were and women who were raped and held captive. Let's bring them home, and that should be the cry. And you can't negotiate with them.
Right.
Go in there. Let's rescue them. Let's bring them back. I mean, two-nation solution, politics aside. Just on that, peel all those layers aside, and just the humanity of those women and girls who are who are being held hostage right now.
Text message here, 9409. From my understanding, they aren't even soldiers in the conventional sense. These women are essentially border observers and not designated for combat. So it's doubly disgusting, in my opinion. Jeff, this is from Nebraska. Monsters breed monsters. Yeah, when you read those videos or hear the audio that Israel captured where they call back to their parents and celebrate, you just realize that this is like an intergenerational issue, which is just heartbreaking. Now, let's go to the phone lines. Francis has been incredibly patient. Francis, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS. Good morning, Francis.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
We're great. Thanks for sticking around for us through that interview. What's on your mind?
No, I really like that interview. It's interesting because it does give a better perspective. And I'm with you 100%. Jeff said there is true evil, like wicked, evil people that you can't rationalize or get your head around, I don't know. It just bothers me. Hey, but I was really enjoying your guest over the marketing issues, the branding, and I don't mean to change gears dramatically here,
no, go ahead. What's on your mind?
It dawned on me that Donald Trump is basically engaged in kind of a rebrand over many years now, and has from being a Democrat supporter and things like that to where he is now. The one thing that I think, and I would like to hear any input about this, but I think there are two events that have really marked Trump's presidential run, stint, and post-run. And it's, number one was the debate with Joe Biden. And I think Trump was suffering from COVID at the time, or at least that's the rumor. But he literally lost, I think that was a primary milepost where he lost that election. And, he lost the election. Let's not divert into a bunch of crazy election conspiracy nonsense. But that's where he lost that election. And it's because he let his own branding fail himself. He let his guard down. You saw what he is. The other thing that I think, the other date, if you could erase it from the calendar altogether, was January 6th, 2021. If he had just done one right thing, instead of letting these people who were going to vote for him and support him anyway run amok, if he could have just reined them in and done the right thing one time, but he couldn't. It's not in his DNA. And it's because he slips away from his branding. A part of it is that you can't change your stripes. That's really part of the problem with him.
Francis, really interesting. I'm out of time right now. I'm against the break. I'm going to continue. Stick around. We'll have Andrew McGuire, brand expert, answer that in just a second. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill out today celebrating the graduation of his daughter. He'll be back in tomorrow with us. Real quick, did January 6th hurt Trump's brand, Andrew McGuire?
Yeah, I mean, I think just losing the election and coming off the midterms where he also lost, because Trump's brand is all about winning. All he does is win. Remember, you can get tired of winning. And then we start getting tired of losing. So for him, I mean, the double-edged sword of Trump is his narcissism. Like on the good side, it's like it embodies the individualism of the American spirit, because what's good for you ultimately, like from a conservative standpoint, it's about the individual. It's good for everybody. But the bad side of it is your thin skin, and it's all about him. So he made it about him and not about the people, and that did hurt him.
All right, 9 o'clock hour, Gabe Evans, candidate for Congressional District 8, joining us. You're not going to want to miss this. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. Nine a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. Bill taking the day off to celebrate his daughter's graduation. He'll be back with us tomorrow. Joining us in studios, Andrew McGuire. He's a professional brand strategist with companies like Starbucks, Ritz-Carlton, gosh, you name it, it's been out there. P&G, Frontier Airlines, all those folks. So Andrew McGuire joining us in studio. Grateful to have him with us. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Coming up here just after the news, Gabe Evans. He's running for Congress in Congressional District 8. That's Yadira Caraveo's district in the northern part of Denver. He's a Republican challenging her. It's a competitive primary. We're going to get the lowdown from Gabe in just a second. Let's check in on the news, the Blake Olson news. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. 58 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 70s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story in about 30 minutes, the Avalanche holding a press conference, and many expect that Avalanche great Gabe Landeskog will hang up the skates and retire from the NHL. Former President Trump still in the game and in the South Bronx today.
The Crotona Park rally is the first major rally former President Trump has had in New York City in the past 8 years.
People need to see something different,
Trump keeps it real. Like, you know what I'm saying? Only real people understand Trump. Before he was president, he was the same person.
Since the former president is mandated to be in Manhattan criminal court for the length of his hush money case, he can't go far, so he's been holding smaller media events in and around New York City. That includes visiting a Harlem bodega to speak out against crime and a much larger rally in New Jersey that drew about 100,000 people. I'm Natalie Migliori, NBC News Radio, New York.
President Biden will host a state dinner at the White House tonight.
Joe Biden.
It'll be for President of Kenya. Hamas supporters continue to camp out on the campus of the University of Denver. They still won't show their IDs, and it's believed that there are non-student paid chaos leaders on hand. Rabbi Hillel Goldberg of the Intermountain Jewish News on with Jeff last hour, and despite some European countries supporting a possible Palestinian state, Goldberg knows what that means.
My response is sadness, because the foundation of a Palestinian state now and from the time it was first proposed has been, from the point of view of the people who were to occupy it, to live in it, a rejection of the Jewish state. It's not simply a unilateral move. Oh, let's make a state, let's have a state. No, it's a double move. The idea is, let's have a state that will destroy another state.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's plan to put a bipartisan border bill to a vote for a second time is being called a political stunt by conservatives, and they vow to block it. The bill would reform the asylum laws and give Biden the power to shut down the border once illegal immigrant crossings average 4,000 per day. How about none? Some House lawmakers want the Pentagon to rehire military service members who were fired for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. The House Armed Services Committee adopted the amendment to the annual defense policy bill, but it might not survive a meeting later this year in the Senate. A Medina alert has been issued by the Colorado Bureau of Investigations for a white Kia Sedona after the driver was involved in a hit and run that left a cyclist with serious injuries last night in the Central Park neighborhood. Police also searching for a hit and run driver who struck and killed a pedestrian in Denver Tuesday night. It happened near 61st and Federal, and authorities say the man's body was found lying in the road just after 11 o'clock, but no vehicle description has been released.
And the right man for the job's coming up. The Rockies' steadiest hitter all year long, Ryan McMahon.
Hit well to right field. Going back is Nevin to the track, and it's gone. Towering shot hit by Ryan McMahon to right field.
Rockies end a 4-game losing streak, 4-3-12 getaway day this afternoon.
Tomčić fakes, bumps, fires Big shot.
And Luka Doncic, 33 points, 8 assists, 6 boards, and 3 steals. Kyrie Irving had 30, and the Mavs beat the T-Wolves in Game 1 of the NBA Western Conference Finals, 108-105. 53 in Golden, 56 in Aurora, and 58 in Denver. Jeff and Andrew continue on Thursday in for Billy. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast calls for a warm day today, up near 80 under sunny to partly sunny skies, getting a bit breezy, though, by afternoon. You'll notice the winds picking up later today as a front approaches. Behind the front, cooler tonight, lows down to near 40. Not as warm Friday, a high near 70. Maybe an isolated shower late. Saturday, low to mid-70s, a chance Saturday for showers and thunderstorms. Near 70 Sunday, a chance of showers and thunderstorms, drier and warmer Monday. I'm meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, joining the Jeff and Bill show, Gabe Evans. He's running for Congress. You may know that name. He's a state representative. He's a conservative state representative and candidate for Congress who spent his entire life running towards the challenge, his website says. Gabe spent 12 years serving his country in the U.S. Army and Colorado Army National Guard as a UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter pilot and company commander. He's looking to unseat Yadira Caraveo, but first he's got to win a primary against Janak Joshi. We're going to dive into all of that. Gabe, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill show.
Oh, it's great to be on with you this morning.
So let's start there with the primary. Why are you better than Janak Joshi to represent Congressional District 8 here in Colorado?
Well, you kind of touched on part of it with that intro there. You know, since I was 20 years old, I've spent my life either in the military or 10 more years in law enforcement with the city of Arvada. So that's Jefferson and Adams counties. And, you know, my life has been dedicated to serving the folks in my community, in military, in law enforcement. As a cop, when people would call me up and say, hey, you know, I got a problem here, my answer was always, how do we work together to fix it? So what I've been doing down at the state capitol, we obviously know that the Republicans are in a super minority down at the state capitol, but even down there, I've been able to get some positive traction and stand up for my values and beliefs. And that's what I'm going to continue to do in Congress.
The Colorado GOP endorsing Janak Joshi. Why did they get it wrong?
Well, I went through the assembly process. I was honored to get 62% of the vote through assembly from the grassroots Republicans that show up there. But I also resonate with a lot of the Republicans who don't necessarily go to assembly. I also had a petition. I had about 50 volunteers, so not paid. These are volunteers that were excited enough about my candidacy to go out and stand in front of King Soopers, to knock on doors, to collect signatures. I got about 2,200 signatures from Republicans, again, who generally don't go through the assembly process, who also want to see me go to Congress. There were initially 4 Republicans that were in this primary. 2 of them have dropped out. Both of those folks, Commissioner Scott James from Weld County and then Joanne Duho, they've both thrown their support behind me. Most of the local elected officials in this district are behind me, the mayors, the county commissioners. So we really do have a groundswell of support from the district. I currently represent a big part of this district. And like I said, from the grassroots activists to the elected officials and everybody in between, the folks in this district are behind me.
Yeah, you've got some pretty big endorsements. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, Elise Stefanik, Congresswoman from New York, Tom Cotton, U.S. Senator, Jim Banks, U.S. Congressman running for Senate in Indiana, as well as former electeds here in Colorado like Bill Owens. Let's talk about kind of the grassroots versus the establishment conservative Republican issue. Is that a big issue in this case? Or are you kind of more of an establishment Republican guy or more of a grassroots Republican guy or a little bit of both?
You know, I'm a Gabe Evans Republican. And so that means I take a little bit of, everybody that's either my role models that I look up to. So there's things I take from Ronald Reagan. There's things I take from President Trump. There's things I take from just local folks that I've watched that have been doing a good job. And I say, you know what, I want to emulate that stuff. And so, from top to bottom, my faith guides me. I follow the U.S. Constitution because I've sworn 3 oaths payable up to and including my life to defend that. And then I listen to the voters in my district. And so all of that comes together to provide, what I offer to the voters. And I think, like I said, that resonates, because you can look at really all sectors of not just the conservative movement, but down at the state capitol. I would get emails from constituents who would say, Gabe, I'm actually a registered Democrat, but my party is going crazy. So the Democrat Party is going crazy. And I voted for you, Gabe, and I just watched your floor speech, or I just read an op-ed that you put in the Denver Post. And I'm so glad I voted for you, because you're speaking the truth, you're speaking the common sense. And as a Democrat who understands that the Democrat Party is going way too far to the left, I'm behind you, Gabe. I'm proud to have voted for you, and I'll do it again.
Yeah, and I want to get to Yadira Caraveo in just a second, but one more question. Has Donald Trump endorsed in this race at all?
No, Donald Trump has not endorsed in this race.
Gotcha. So he's staying out of this one. On Yadira Caraveo, she's the one who currently holds that seat. She's a Democrat. And this is not really a Democrat district. First of all, talk about the nature of this district, why it's considered a toss-up, and then why would you be better than Yadira Caraveo to represent these people?
Yeah, so Yadira Caraveo is the low vote getter on the Democrat side in the 2022 cycle. There is no Democrat in Congress that got a smaller percentage of the vote than she did in 2022. And so she's incredibly vulnerable. This is a national top 5 pickup priority for the Republicans. You mentioned earlier a lot of the support that I've amassed, and it's because from the grassroots level all the way up to the U.S. Speaker of the House and everybody in between, they look at my background, they look at my record of service, they look at what I've done down at the state capitol, and they understand that I have the ability to put together the team and carry the message, and just what I stand for, that's what's going to carry this district. Yadira Caraveo, on the other hand, well, she's a hardcore open borders advocate. She's always voted for open borders. She's voted for sanctuary city and state policies. Not only that, she's gone out of her way to sign on to letters calling for Joe Biden to defund ICE, defund Customs and Border Protection. She's constantly advocated for more red tape, higher taxes, more barriers in the way of everyday Americans and Coloradans who are just trying to go to work, put food on the table, put gas in the car. And then not only that, she's a radical leftist when it comes to, in her job as a pediatrician. She bragged about talking to kids as young as 8 about just blatantly inappropriate sexual topics. So across the board, Yadira Caraveo is wrong for Colorado. She's nothing but just a rubber stamp for leftist extremists, and she needs to go.
Talking with Gabe Evans, he's running for Congress in Congressional District 8. Some news breaking today, just an hour ago, in fact, on Colorado politics. GOP aligned super PAC reserves $5 million in ads for Colorado's battleground 8th Congressional District. A top Republican political action committee on Wednesday booked $5 million worth of fall ads for Colorado's 8th Congressional District race, confirming that the toss-up seat will likely be home to the state's marquee general election contest. So what are they saying? This is going to be the big one, folks. This is the big race this year. Here in Colorado, we've got some primaries coming up that got our attention now, CD5, CD4. But if Republicans want to get a seat from Democrats, it's going to happen in Congressional District 8. Gabe Evans, one of the Republicans running. By the way, his website, electgabeevans.com, electgabeevans.com. Gabe, this is a district with strong Hispanic communities. How do you appeal to them?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, my grandfather, my abuelito, he immigrated to this country from Mexico. My mom, Rebecca Chavez, she's a first-generation American. But my grandfather did it right. He earned his citizenship fighting in World War II along with 2 Purple Hearts. He carried German shrapnel in his back till the day he died, because that's how much he loves this country. That's how badly he wanted to be a productive, contributing member to the greatest country in the history of the world. And so my uncle tells me all the time, he says, Gabe, you never forget that the citizenship for the Chavez family was paid for in blood. You're an American first, and you're of Hispanic descent, and you can be proud of that, but you're an American first. That is something that resonates with a lot of, as you said, this district is 40% Hispanics. These are folks that also did it the right way. They came here, they took the time and the effort to follow our laws, to legally become citizens, to legally have status to be present in this country and in this state. And so I've had lots of conversations with them. They're just as frustrated by a lot of the stuff that we've already talked about. They came to the United States to get away from violence and crime. Well, guess what? Under leftist rule here in Colorado, our state has gone from well above the national average just 10 years ago. We are now the third most dangerous state in the nation. And that rankles folks that came to this country for a better way of life. Fentanyl is now the leading cause of death for folks ages 18 to 45. Folks that come to the United States from countries that have a major cartel presence, they came here to get away from the cartels. And now because of leftist open border policies, we got cartels running our streets, killing more Americans ages 18 to 45 than anything else. Let's talk cost of living. These are hardworking folks that are, again, trying to put food on the table and trying to put gas in the car. And when leftist policies absolutely handcuff their ability to do that, they start to get frustrated. And I can resonate with that because their story is my story. My mom thought that she was going to grow up living in a dirt floor hut down in Juarez, Mexico. But because of the American dream, she was able to, move to Colorado, earn that American dream, get that better life, amass that generational wealth. That is what Republicans offer to the Hispanic community. That's my story, and that resonates with them when we have those conversations.
Talking with Gabe Evans, he's running for Congress. I've got a question on that, and let's dive into policy issues now. Would you support mass deportations?
Well, I think the first thing that we got to do is we got to get the border secured. Because as long as the border's open, it really doesn't matter what we do in this country. You can, turn on the news and you can see, oh, hey, this, particular individual who was deported 5 times, 7 times, 9 times. He came right back, continued to do bad things, continued to commit crimes. So the absolute first step that we have to do is get the border under control. Because until the border's under control, everything else that we do is pointless. They can just come right back in.
So if Trump does get it under control, and then, the president, likely president of the United States, Donald Trump, wants to initiate mass deportations, would you support it then?
I think you have to definitely prioritize it. 10 years as a police officer, I know that there's a lot of violent folks that are here in this country illegally. We definitely got to go after those folks first. But like I said earlier, it takes years to legally come to this country. And so you got folks that are here illegally. The state of Colorado just a couple of weeks ago passed a bill that gives multiple millions of dollars to illegal immigrants. And that is incredibly frustrating to folks like my family and all the other families that did it the right way, to see these folks whose first act is coming here, is illegally crossing the border, to then have the red carpet rolled out for them. Go back, wait in line, do it the right way, stop cutting in line. You want to come here? Let's come here. Let's work on how we can streamline that process. But you can't cut in line.
Let's talk about pro-life. You are pro-life, but you wouldn't support a national abortion ban. Why not?
Well, like President Trump, I think that the pro-life movement has been working for 50 years at this point to have this issue returned back to the states. And I don't really see any reason with the recent Supreme Court decision to reverse that momentum. I think that sent the issue to the states, and it's up to the states now to figure out how do we best preserve all life.
How about funding for Ukraine? Would you have voted for the recent funding package for Ukraine? And how about Israel?
Yeah, so Ukraine and Israel, they're similar, but there's some differences. And I can talk about that because 12 years in the Army, I've been to actually both of those parts of the world. And so Ukraine, you have a geopolitical situation there where you've got a very aggressive despot in Russia who's trying to take over, increasingly broad swaths of Eastern Europe to create a buffer state. That's their tactic going back hundreds of years. In Israel, you have what's effectively a religious war where you have radical folks in predominantly Iran who absolutely refuse to acknowledge Israel's ability to exist as a nation. And so, yes, I 100% support Israel. Joe Biden himself said it a while ago. Israel is a critical partner in the Middle East. Israel is a critical partner for preserving peace in that region. And we need to absolutely stand by Israel. We need to stand against anti-Semitism. And that's something that I can speak directly to, having served in a combat zone in that part of the world. Ukraine is a little bit more nuanced, but we did give Ukraine a security guarantee when they divested their nukes back in the 90s. And there's absolutely no way that we can reward a despot like Putin. So for Ukraine, Russia, if you've ever read a Russian novel, they're long, they're gloomy, they're gritty. That's how the Russians fight. That's the sort of war that they want to drag us into. We need to come up with a strategy that aggressively and dynamically punches Putin in the nose so that he never does this again, but that also doesn't drag us into forever war.
Yeah, and so I guess the question is, how far are you willing to go as a lawmaker? Would you be willing to declare war against Russia to defend Ukraine?
I don't think anybody of us wants to see something like that happen. That's going to be really bad for the global community. I'm a concealed carry firearms instructor, which means that I teach a lot of people about how do you deter violence. It's literally in the name of the 9mm round. If, parabellum, if you want peace, prepare for war. And so we need to ensure that we are projecting American strength around the globe, that folks know, like Teddy Roosevelt said, speak softly, carry a big stick. Under Joe Biden, starting with his disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, he projected weakness around the world. And now all of the dictators and the rogue nations are taking advantage of that. So we need to get back to projecting strength, because we are the strongest, most powerful country in the world right now. We project that strength, and I think there's a way to bring a lot of these conflicts to a successful resolution without actually having to put America in harm's way. But it starts with getting Joe Biden out of office this year, because Joe Biden does nothing but project weakness, and his rubber stamps in Congress, like Yadira Caraveo, go along with him hook, line, and sinker.
Talking with Gabe Evans. He's an Army veteran, police officer, and conservative. He's running for the Republican nomination in Congressional District 8. His website, electgabeevans.com, electgabeevans.com. Let's talk a little bit about Trump. Let's talk about your district in Trump. Do you anticipate Congressional District 8 supporting Donald Trump in this election? And if not, how do you win that district if maybe it's not in favor of Donald Trump?
Yeah, so Trump is actually statistically tied in this district right now. Again, this district is about folks who are trying to put food on the table, trying to put gas in the car. You got agriculture, oil, and gas in the northern part of the district. In the southern part of the district, you got a lot of industry that ultimately, processes and distributes a lot of that raw material into the stuff that we need for our everyday life. So these are folks, the top two issues are cost of living and then immigration. And those two, are intricately linked to each other. And so the result of that is, like I said, Trump is statistically tied in this district. Now, you look nationally, how do Republicans win battleground seats? Well, the first thing is, all other things being equal, candidates who are veterans tend to do about 5 points better than candidates who are not veterans. So if I can run 5 points ahead of the top of the ticket, we win this seat.
Is there any daylight between you and President Trump? Are there any issues that you two don't agree on?
Well, like I said, in order, I take my my guidance. I'm guided by my faith. I follow the Constitution because I've sworn 4 oaths, 3 of them payable with my life, to uphold and defend that. And I listen to the voters in my district. So that's how I'm going to approach really any of these issues that come up.
Joining us in studio is Andrew McGuire. He's a brand specialist. He's worked with Starbucks. He's worked with Ritz-Carlton. He's worked with P&G, all that. He's got a question for you. Andrew McGuire, go ahead.
Gabe, hey, first off, love your story. I think you have a great opportunity here in this district, because as you mentioned, it is close, man. It went 50-50 last time. I think the Libertarians, my boys, played spoiler and kind of tipping that seat. So I think you have a great brand story as far as really fight back with Gabe Evans. It's a good call to action for fighting against all these very bad consequences of the policies that are there with the drugs and the crime and all that. But for me, it's like vision drives behavior, which drives outcome. So, you've talked a lot about, the things that you're fighting against. What are some of the things you're fighting for that might print some daylight with you with your primary challenger, and of course with in the general election? What does that vision give you? The pixie dust. Like what's your ideal state look like 4 years later after you've served your first term?
Yeah, I mean, so it really is those small government things. You know, as a police officer, one of the things I promoted a couple of times, so I ended up being a lieutenant and a watch commander, which meant that when I came on duty, 95% of the time, because I worked the night shift, like 95% of the time, I was the highest ranking guy around, and so I basically ran the city from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next morning. And so what I would always tell my cops, because again, I'm a small government guy. I believe that government has a couple of key functions. Those functions are found in the preamble to the U.S. Constitution, and everything else, the government needs to stay out of it and let people live their lives. And so what I'd always tell my cops is, look, folks, if folks are doing bad things in our community, we're going to be there. But other than that, unless somebody calls us and asks for help, we need to be transparent to our good citizens, those good members of our community who are just trying to lead their everyday life, because at the end of the day, that's what the Declaration of Independence promises all of us, right? That's the promise that the Declaration makes and that the U.S. Constitution practically and logistically fulfills. And it is that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So government provides that framework, but the life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, that is up to individuals to go out, to use their freedom, to use their liberty, to use their equality of opportunity to lead their best life, and to be able to lead that life how they see fit, because they have that freedom, they have that liberty, and they also have money in their pocket to be able to do that, because we've lowered taxes, we've lowered fees, we've lowered regulation, we've cut red tape, we've put citizens back in the driver's seat of having the resources and the free time to be able to live their lives as they see fit and achieve the best versions of what they want to be, their American dream. And they can do all of that stuff with the government being more transparent to them. The government does those critical things in the Constitution, protects us from invasions, maintains form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. That's my vision. That's what I see. I want folks to be able to live their best lives with less government interference, regulation, taxes, and red tape.
Love it. Well said, Gabe Evans. You were educated at Patrick Henry, isn't that right?
That is correct.
I was going to say, you sound like a Patrick Henry, well-educated man in the formation of this government. Final question here for you. I want to go back to your family. You had family that immigrated here, served our country, fought in World War II. As you mentioned, you've had family members serve in the military throughout your upbringing. They see you as wanting to serve. When they pull that all together, and that family history that you're inheriting, and now they have a son that's seeking to become a member of Congress, how does your family feel about all this?
Well, the most important part of my family is my immediate family, my wife, my two boys. They weren't entirely thrilled with my 12 years in the military because I was gone all the time and I was doing dangerous stuff. They were a little bit better with my law enforcement career, but still, you suit up every morning. You don't know if you're ever coming home that night. My immediate family, my wife, my boys, they're 100% behind me in this endeavor. My wife, her hometown is actually the greater Washington, D.C. area. So they're 100% supportive of this. You mentioned Patrick Henry College. We've done 3 different, I'm a big fan of school choice. I think parents ought to be able to select the education that works for them and their kids. My kids have gone to public school, charter school, they've been homeschooled. So we have a lot of flexibility in how we educate our kids to make sure that as I'm going back and forth between Washington, D.C. and then coming back to the district to make sure that I don't get sucked into the swamp, we have the flexibility as an immediate nuclear family to stay together and do this thing together. My broader family, I think I kind of alluded to it earlier. My mom at times, she kind of had a bleak idea of what her future might look like, being a first generation American. And she got her big break in the 70s and the 80s, flying for the airlines back when the airlines was, a much more glamorous thing than it is now. That's part of her American dream. And that's what resonates with not just the 40% Hispanic population of this district, but with everybody in this district, that it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. You come to this country legally, you work hard, you can achieve your best version of yourself. It's something that my family is very, very proud of. And that's something that I want to make sure we protect and preserve for the current generation and for future generations, because that is the American dream. And that is a massive, massive anomaly in all of recorded human history, to have that sort of freedom and that ability to achieve your best self.
Talking with Gabe Evans, Army veteran, police officer, and conservative, running for Congressional District 8. His website, electgabeevans.com. That's electgabeevans.com. Gabe, thanks so much for taking time to be on the Jeff and Bill Show.
I really appreciate you having me on this morning.
We'll get your calls and texts. What do you think about Gabe Evans? What do you think about his message? I'm going to ask our brand strategist expert, Andrew McGuire, about that as well. Did he connect? Is he going to connect with voters? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. I want to talk to you all about Roll 'em Out shelves. We're going to have Roll 'em Out shelves installed in our house next week. Very excited about this. These are drawers that pull out in your kitchen, in your laundry room, in your bathroom. Incredibly sturdy Baltic birch shelves. Now, we had Joyce and Brent Tolliver over to our house recently to do all the measurements. First of all, these are wonderful people, right? It's like having your brother, your mother home. They're friendly. They share the same values. We talked faith. We talked family. We talked American values. Delightful people to work with. Then we got to work. We have a small kitchen, so everything's kind of jam-packed in there with 6 people living in our house, and so we need the space. They measured everything, and they're going to be installing it at our house here shortly. Check out Roll 'em Out Shelves by visiting rollemoutshelves.com and begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000. When Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Give them a call today for your free in-home estimate, 303-475-9601. That's 303-475-9601, or rollemoutshelves.com. Again, rollemoutshelves.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. The families of the victims of the Robb Elementary School massacre are suing the Texas State Police over its botched response to the rampage that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Tony Waterman reports.
Nearly 100 state troopers are targeted in the lawsuit, which accuses them of failing to follow their training. And earlier this year, the Justice Department did release a scathing report of the incident, detailing what it called cascading failures in law enforcement's response. Families say that none of the nearly 400 officers who responded have been held accountable and believe that lives could have been saved if police acted faster. Now, separately, the victims' families say they reached a $2 million settlement with the city of Uvalde, which includes enhanced training for local police officers.
Officials in Iowa say 4 people died and at least 35 were injured by a devastating tornado in the south of the state. Many homes and businesses in the town of Greenfield were also reduced to rubble by the twister. Search and rescue teams spent Wednesday scouring destroyed buildings looking for people potentially trapped inside. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds describes the damage as, quote, horrific. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Gabe Evans joined us just a second ago, talk about his campaign for Congressional District 8. Bill's out today. Andrew McGuire sitting in with us. Andrew's a brand expert, served companies like Duracell, Starbucks, Lexus, Naked Juice, Haagen-Dazs, Chipotle, Einstein Brothers. So he's helped advise those brands. What do you think of Gabe Evans from your brand perspective there, Andrew?
I mean, he's got an incredible story. I like his general framing of Gabe Evans' fight back. With leveraging his experience as a soldier and as a cop. And I think a couple things really hit in his story. One was when he said he swore on an oath, with his life as collateral like 3 times. So that says like he's 100% in it. So I think my only shift for him that I think where he really hit home, even more than that, was when he talked about fighting for the future, leveraging his family story, that sense of hope of coming here for the American dream. So, I mean, and all my advice to clients is when you frame that vision first of where you're going, and then it's a whole lot more powerful what you're fighting for. Because it's not you're against this, against that, but you're against this because you're fighting for the American dream. So if his slogan is fight back, I would want to see some fight forward, right? Like fight for the future. He kept saying the line, fighting for the best version of yourself or the best version of your Colorado life. Like that's fire, man. Like let's hear some more of that to say what you're fighting for. And then it's a win-win. You can win people on both sides of the aisle, the ones that are mad as hell about the crime and the drugs and all that, but also people who want that American dream story, from immigrants to, future congressmen. Like it's an incredible story that he mentioned, the anomaly in history that it only happens here, but fighting to protect that and conserve that's fire. So I think he's got a great campaign. And of course he's very articulate in delivering his
text message here. And I'm asking you about to respond to this in just a second. All right. Write the brand narrative for the Colorado Republican Party in general. And how do we start to win again? Think about that. I want to talk to you all about QC Kinetics. Look, we're all getting older, right? Your joints, knees, back, elbow, all that stuff starts to creak a little bit. You don't want to run to surgery. Believe me, that's the last thing you want to do. And there's a service out there with QC Kinetics that offers regenerative medical treatments. These are non-surgical, drug-free solutions. As we age, lower back pain becomes common, from muscle strains to herniated discs. Symptoms like muscle aches and shooting pain can worsen with movement. Why risk surgery when there's a safer option? With no downtime and a free consultation, QC Kinetics provides same-day treatment in many cases. Visit my friends at QC Kinetics and revolutionize your approach to lower back pain. Give them a call, 303-900-8986, or visit painfreecolorado.com to schedule your free consultation today. 303-900-8986 or painfreecolorado.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff Hunt sent you. All right, brand strategists. Colorado Republicans continue to lose and lose and lose and lose and lose and lose. Mr. Strategy Man, tell us what to do.
It's a tough one, but not an impossible one. I think, in advising different brands and companies, and one of my brands right now is the Transformational Leadership Academy, and we work with C-suite leaders that are leading companies and teams to develop transformational leaders, and that's really what the GOP needs to become and needs to bring in as candidates. Transformational leaders are not reactive, but they're proactive in creating what's next and new. And that's a space where Democrats tend to own, because, not even though the word is maybe opposite now of being progressive, but they're always offering a vision of the future, a utopia, and they use words that everybody likes, like clean water and opportunities for everybody, but they paint a vision of what they're doing. So what Gabe started doing is painting a vision of what America could be versus always looking back of where it should be. So running towards something. So bringing up candidates like Gabe, who offer that vision of the future, but also continue to listen to their audience, and the citizens, and solve the problems that they think they have, not what Washington has, and talk about it in those terms, about the problems, not about the policies, this and that. As Republicans, we get wrapped around the axle talking about this law and this bill and blah, 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 blah. It's just white noise. Instead, it's paint the vision. People will see like, yes, I want clean water. Cool. I'm going to vote for them. Like it doesn't have to be hard, guys. Like let's find candidates that can articulate that vision of the future. And one that's based in conservative principles, which is all about that individual. Because ultimately it's one voter at a time. It's an individual. What's good for me is good for my family. What's good for my family is good for the community. So connect with people one-on-one, listen to their stories, and find candidates who can be those transformational leaders, because we don't want managing the status quo. And that's, I think, what so much of the parties done. We managed the status quo and then we became against everything. Whereas the Democrats, they had the blueprint, right? Like they had a vision for Colorado, a long-term vision and strategy. It wasn't reinventing the wheel every election cycle like we tend to do. They had a long-term vision, they funded it, and here we are.
I'd love to hear from listeners on this. Do you agree? Do you agree with Andrew McGuire that we need to set forth a transformational leader vision for the state of Colorado? And will that win and kind of turn people our direction? And do you believe that Dave Williams and the current leadership of the state party provides that? Give me a call, 303-696-1971. That's 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. Someone texted in 3,300, city on a hill. Yeah. Kind of being like that, city on a hill. Love to hear from you all. Give us a call or text us. I want to talk to you about advanced hair. If you're losing your hair, you need a simple solution that works. You heard that the Jeff and Bill Show was the top-rated talk show by Westward. Well, advanced hair was the top-rated hair solution by Westward as well. You want the best modern technology with top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her amazing team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration, from the experience itself to their unmatched results. Receding hairline, bald spot, or thinning hair, address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments, and get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. No one in Denver can offer anything like the advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. Starts with your free consultation. Give them a call today, 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you also get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with the team. That's Redefined Hair Restoration, 720-459 or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. All right, let's go to Jane. Jane, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS. Good morning, Jane.
Yeah, good morning. Real quick, you always talk about Denver, the people of Denver. This is a big state with lots of other people in lots of other places. So where does that leave us? What, chopped liver or something? Come on.
So,
put Colorado in there instead of Denver.
Well, we were talking
we're listening from all over.
Yep.
in your commercial type thing.
Oh,
Okay.
in the commercial reads. Yes. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead, Jane.
Yeah. Okay. He didn't answer two questions. You asked him about what to do with the illegals that are here, who, by the way, will be taking jobs away from Americans. And he didn't answer what to do about Ukraine and how many billions have we sent. And people out here are not willing to send any more billions. But he puts us in the position that we said we would protect him. So no matter how many billions it costs the American taxpayer, he's going to go with it.
That's a great point, Jane. I think with regards to mass deportations, he was willing to mass deport criminals. And this is an issue that we've had on the show. We've discussed about it. Do you think that the American people will allow, do you remember that Elian Gonzalez kid? Remember, he's hiding in a closet, and you had armed police breaking down doors and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Americans would allow that type of mass deportations to happen to young kids, women?
It depends on how they handle it. But I think right now, the idea that jobs are going to disappear, and jobs are disappearing because of AI, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Jobs are going to disappear for the people in the lower end of the income their jobs are going to be taken by these people. How many million now? 10, 12 million?
10 million just since Biden became president. Yeah, there's 20 million plus here.
Yeah, and what are they getting? They're getting all the freebies, and everybody else is out here looking at a steak and wondering how many years it'll be before you could afford to buy one.
Jane, you're exactly right. I'm out of time, unfortunately. Thank you so much for the call. I appreciate you pressing on those two issues. That was a great call. I want to talk to you about Dan Caplis and my friends at Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. I've known Dan for years. Dan is pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. This guy's with us, so he's with you on the values, right? But this guy's a juggernaut. If you're going to go into the courtroom, you want a titan there beside you. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. He's a serious lawyer for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit DanCaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. Joe, we'll get to you next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. I want to thank everybody for their calls and texts. We had a fantastic day. Bill out today celebrating his daughter's graduation. He'll be back tomorrow. Let's go to Joe, line 2. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. I thought Representative Evans' attitude and energy was great. And is it Matt that's there with you?
Andrew. Andrew, the brand strategist. Yep.
Yeah, sorry about that, Andrew. He, did lay out a great vision for the future, which is something that I think Republicans overall have kind of lost.
Yeah.
And a style that Colorado used to have its own unique Republican style and philosophy.
That's exactly right.
And I think across the country, because of various political objectives, there's been a consolidation of what is a Republican, and every Republican in every part of the country has to be the same and unified. But it's to be a big party tent, that's not always going to be the case. And the Southern Baptist type of Republican that you might have, that I think is a more prominent religious philosophy in the party, isn't something that necessarily works here in Colorado.
Joe, really interesting point. I'm out of time, unfortunately. Really appreciate that. The nature of kind of how Republicans have changed overall and whether or not that reflects the uniqueness in Colorado. Joe, excellent call. Really appreciate it. Guys, I want to talk to you about Colorado Christian University. Is your student ready to live out their faith and prepare for their future career? For over 100 years, Colorado Christian University has been educating the next generation of Christian leaders in a distinctly Christ-centered community. CCU is the premier interdenominational Christian university in the Rocky Mountain region. They offer a world-class education, ranking in the top 2% of all colleges nationwide for their rigorous academics. Students can choose from over 100 undergraduate programs ranging from psychology and entrepreneurship to theology, engineering, and their nationally acclaimed nursing and education programs. CCU cultivates real faith that equips students in all areas of life. Their small campus and Christ-centered community set CCU apart. At CCU, students are known by name, not by a number. Professors are mentors, developing students spiritually and professionally. No matter what degree path they choose, your student will graduate from Colorado Christian University, ready to impact the world with grace and truth. To learn more and apply, go to ccu.edu/apply. That's ccu.edu/apply. Special thanks to my friend Andrew McGuire, brand strategist, joining us in studio. His website, andrewmcguire.com. That's andrewmcguire.com. Give him a follow there. Tomorrow, Bill's back in with George Brockler and Janak Joshi. You've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.